Let me get an agenda.
All right, we're live.
And the Big Rock. That's the biggest tournament in North Carolina. It's got to be. You're talking $20,000 to get in all of the different categories of the tournament. How many categories are there, and what's the cheapest way you can get in that tournament?
So it's 42,000, I think,
Oh my God.
For all of them, which I did not do. Obviously.
What? No, what? No, I was kidding.
So the cheapest way you can get in is level 1, and the level 1 is $2,500. So everyone has to enter level 1 regardless. I think there's 271 boats. So level 1, $2,500, and then it goes up. The different levels for winner take all. Mahi, I think, is level 7, which is another one that some of the smaller boats can enter. We opted out of that just because it is a winner take all, and I think there was 170 entries, and that one's $2,500. But that was
odds weren't good enough on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a $500,000 purse for that winner take all. I think it's 550,000. But yeah, level 1, level 2 is 50, 30, 20, largest blue marlin release, $2,500 entry. First place is 243,000. Level 3 is 50, 30, 20, largest blue marlin, $5,000 entry. It pays 450 grand. Level 4, winner take all, blue marlin, $5,000. That one paid $837,000. The Fabulous Fisherman, which I think we'll get to here in a second when we talk about the sensation, that is the first fish boated over 500 pounds, and that one is a $5,000 entry, and that was $833,000 prize. So, and as I'm going through these levels, you have to be, so if you do level 2, you have to be in 1. If you do level 3, you have to be in 1 and 2, level 4. And so up until level 6, which is the Super 20, that is usually your 70-foot, 60, your big dogs.
Michael Jordan boats.
Yeah.
So no 20-foot center consoles in that one.
I think there may have been, I think Pelagic Hunter was in that one. It's a 42 Freeman, 46, something like that. That's the boat that won it a few years ago.
There seems to be some confusion on this disqualification. I haven't heard anybody just put it in layman's terms. Could you tell us a little more, expound a little bit on you or Pete or Wes on the rule number 23? Because the way I'm interpreting it is, and nobody's saying it simply, is that the fish was mutilated before it was boated. That's really all you have to say, correct?
Correct. So 20, and let me just preface this by Big Rock rules are 2 pages long. Okay. They are the simplest rules, I feel like, for a tournament with a $5 million purse. I've fished striper tournaments with longer rule books.
So my question is, how did the biologist, if this were even the case, if biologists even looked at the fish, because I don't know, but if they did, how did they determine when that fish, the mutilation occurred, and how did they determine that the mutilation occurred before the marlin was boated?
So I'm not the biologist. I couldn't answer that specific question, but I do know you have to have GoPro footage. I don't think it's the entire fight, but I know you have to have it when you boat the fish. If you're doing a release, you have to show you grabbing the leader and the angler. Got to have some pretty good footage. I know there was a boat that got disqualified. They didn't get the leader in the shot. It was real quick. Wow. So the release didn't count. And you'll see if you look at some of them, like if you follow certain boats and you look at.
So these old rich guys, they're going to have to bring a video guy with them because they can't operate a somebody on the boat's got to be able to operate a GoPro.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're talking when that kind of money's on the line, what's a $400 or $500 GoPro to record some footage and make sure you have batteries? And they go over that in the rules. They're like, hey, make sure the time and date is set. We've had entries that have done that before, and we unverify those.
That's what's cool about a cell phone is you got a timestamp on any video or picture that you take on a cell phone.
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't know why they don't let you use cell phone. It has to be GoPro footage. I mean,
Oh, really? Okay.
clearly,
GoPro must
Well,
sponsor.
you got a wider angle with GoPro too, so I think it can.
Yep.
You're able to pick up
well,
more.
and another thing that they brought up this year, which I thought was pretty neat, and it was kind of a tip, but what they said was if you do have a blue marlin get to the boat and you're grabbing the leader, they had recommended putting it on a pole because they have to visibly see the fish as well to verify it's a blue marlin. And a lot of times if the fish won't surface, and it's still kind of fighting when they're trying to grab the leader. Your leader's 30, 40 feet. So, I mean, fish could be 40 feet from the boat. They recommend putting it on a pole and dipping it in the water. And they said that it saved a ton of boats. So they actually gave that tip out. And a lot of people were like, oh, that's pretty smart. I mean, we didn't even think about
GoPro's obviously sponsoring this. 100% guaranteed.
guess so.
GoPro is definitely a sponsor.
I don't know that they're an official sponsor, but back to
surprising.
Back to 23. Okay, so
yeah.
23 weight alteration attempted weight alteration of any blue marlin or game fish will be subject to disqualification, automatically disqualify the boat from the tournament. IGFA rules apply regarding mutilated fish. Okay, so then you go look at IGFA rule. I think it's listed under.
Hey, John, while you're looking at that, I watched a podcast today. Pete told me about the podcast, so I found it. And here's what he said. He said there's still not just one, but there's still some gray areas in that Rule 23 and the IGFA. And he said the main one being, and there again, I don't know if this is actually what took it to arbitration, but he said if you look at the whole rule in the IGFA, it says that rule only applies to a potential world record fish, not a tournament fish. And he says there's a few more gray areas in there that their lawyer's going to be covering. From my understanding, could you touch on that for us?
So the official IGFA rule for mutilation of fish is prior to landing or boating the catch caused by sharks, other fish, mammals, or propellers that remove or penetrate the flesh. So prior to boating, anything that is penetrating the flesh, whether it's hit by the boat or a shark attack, whatever, and it penetrates the flesh, it is a disqualification. Okay, that's the first part of the rule. The second part of it is injuries caused by leader or line scratches, old healed scars, or regeneration deformities are not considered to be disqualifying injuries. Any mutilation on the fish must be shown in a photograph and fully explained in a report accompanying the record application. So yes, in that second part, it's letting you know that, hey, you have to photograph. And it's kind of like if you look back at Top Dog 2019, I think the center console that boated that 900-pound blue marlin, they had to hang it out the door. They drug the fish back, and of course it was torn to shreds, but they had proof that the fish was landed without mutilation, and they had proof, and there's pictures floating around the internet on social media of where the fish was basically being ripped in half, being drugged 50 miles back in. So it's in the rules. I don't know where they'll get to it. They have on here about arbitration and the 5-day rules to obtain a lawyer, etc. To me, it's unfortunate. I met the guys at Sensation Wednesday night. Super awesome crew, just down to earth. They talked to me like I was just a normal person, even though these guys are big time fishermen. They do it every day, charter boat. So everybody was rooting for them. They're from boats out of Moorhead. I mean,
it's like right there on the strip. That's where the docked at, right there on the strip. Yeah.
Yep. And it is Jarrett Bay, hole number 1. And if you know anything about Jarrett Bay and the Big Rock, Randy, who founded Jarrett Bay, is also, one of the members, and he does the announcing and that sort of thing. When someone radios in a boated fish, he's, saying such and such. I got you hooked up. Good luck, Captain. Everybody likes Randy. So, you know, him being the founder of Jarrett Bay and Sensation being hole number one, you know, I'm sure it was a tough decision by him, but I think the rule's the rule, and you know, you bend it one time, what happens next? So I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know if they qualified fights. To my knowledge, they haven't, but you know, there's a lot of discrepancy going on. Social media is upset. I mean, you had 10,000 people watching a Facebook live stream at 11 o'clock at night for
14,000.
Wow. So
for a crash. Yeah.
So how many?
You had over
how much
10,000
money are we?
present? There was 10,000 people present.
Wow.
They
Yes.
were coming in.
How much money are we talking about, boys?
It was $3.2 million because it would have given them, you know, not only there wasn't a fish boated over 500 pounds, that fabulous fisherman.
So how many boats are we talking in this tournament?
271 total
Wow.
that were in the tournament. So it would have given them, you know, all the levels they were entered, which was every one. It was a $3.2 million payout, I believe. And
now, are most of these boats big? Are they most of them, you know, 50 plus?
Oh yeah, there was so there, you know, on down the levels. So we did level 1 and level 10, which is the outboard division. I think the outboard division had 41 boats maybe. And you know, you had center consoles all the way up to 46 feet, 47 feet. I think the smallest one was a 21-foot Parker, the Barber I think Barber J. A guy's got big cojones to go out there in a 21-foot boat, especially last week, because it was rough.
Yeah, we're talking a Parker, baby. They're enclosed in the front. This just goes right off of them.
I mean, we saw some 10, 12-foot swells that were walls. I mean, it was nothing to play around with last week.
Yeah, 21's pretty short in those seas.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, and you're talking about 6, 7 seconds apart. You know, I mean, it wasn't like it was a 12-foot wave 20 seconds apart or 12 seconds apart. These were 6. It's literally you go up 10, 12 feet and you're back down into another one. I mean, it was amazing.
Well, I watched a podcast today, and yeah, I think Ashley handled himself real well. I think he worded everything the way it needed to be worded. There was no bashing. You know, and they asked him what his plans for the future was. He said, "I plan to fish every one of them." You know, I think from his standpoint, I think he thinks they got a raw deal. Me personally, there again, I've just started saltwater fishing a little over a year ago, or about a year and a half now, I guess. Got to put that half a year in there. I tell you though, from what I can see about you, I've not seen no close-up pictures of the fish. I've heard that there were 2 bite marks. From what Ashley was saying, there was 1. You know, and there's just and this thing has been followed. He's actually going to be on Fox News in the morning.
Yep.
I've already got my TV set. I want to watch that because I'm a big Fox man. And you noticed that he's saying we're not going to get into politics, but he said it's kind of like the way they did the election. You know, we'll just find out how bad we got screwed tomorrow. You know, there again, like I said, my hat's off to him. Like John said, you know, he seems like he'd be a great guy. There was no bashing. He worded everything. I just think from what I read from the articles, and I shared some of that with Pete today, I think he just thinks, he called it shenanigans. The way they were acting when he come in, where they were kind of huddled up together, nobody. And then he said he actually had to approach these people to find out what was going on. Nobody wanted to come up and tell him anything. So, but you know, my hat's off to him and that crew. This is my opinion. My opinion. I didn't see the fish, but I think they're again, a rule's a rule. At the end of the day, I think what hundreds of thousands of people's looking at is they caught a 600-pound fish and they should have won it.
Has anyone seen the mutilation?
I've just seen the pictures. I wasn't there. I mean, you could see. I mean, and I think that's where it's going to go back to penetrate the flesh. I mean,
Zoom in on the big picture at the very
right there at the top, you can see there's 2, and I don't know if the other one, you know, is where they were trying to get the fish in the boat. Yeah, and someone was saying that there was one on the head. I didn't see one on the head, but I did see 2 at the tail, or at least what looked like it. But the other thing that kind of sucks for him, and I was talking about it with the crew I fished with. It was around 8:30. It was getting dark out there, and it was before they had boated it, and we were like, they got to land that fish soon, because when it gets dark out there, one, you've got no light, and that's when the sharks come out. And it's like you had to get the fish in the boat.
There's a good shot of it there, John.
Yeah, so that's Top Dog. That
2019.
Yeah, that's the one that everyone was like, hey, this fish was mutilated. And of course, you had to, it wasn't mutilated before it was boated. So, and to me, when you have rules and it's like, hey, here's our rules, but follow this set of rules, that kind of opens up holes anyways.
Well, this isn't the first time they've had controversy. You said 2019, and I heard there was some more controversy back in 2010.
The boat that didn't have the fishing license.
Yes.
I don't know the full story on that, but
I remember that. The guy had bought the fishing license after they had already, they were on their way in to weigh in, and he got on his phone. And
yes, I don't know the full story, so I don't.
Listen, the big deal with this fish, I'm not going to say his name because he's not on here, and he may not want me to say his name. But he said today, the biggest mistake that the Big Rock made, just like Chad Aldridge, I just posted his comment. I don't know if you can see it or not, John, Pete. He said the fish should have never been moved from the deck. That was the first mistake. There would have been a whole lot less issues by the officials. They said if they were
the so-called bite marks were on the bottom side, they had no idea of it until they started to move the fish.
Well, they were saying if you're going to disqualify the fish, it should have never been taken off the boat.
Well, and that's why they have on there in the rules, no official weight slip will be given for a disqualified fish. So that was part of the reason why you never saw a weight. Everyone was like, what's the weight? What's the weight? What's the weight? And that's when they were having the talks on, hey, this is a DQ fish. And my uncle was actually there. He went and watched it, and he said, you could hear people yelling shark bite, so
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's a tough decision. I'd hate to make it. I feel bad for Sensation, but I think at the end of the day, all these other tournaments, billfish tournaments, they're doing the same thing. They're following the IGFA rules. And where do you draw the line?
If you're going to follow an IGFA rule, shouldn't you state in there, hey, okay, this rule reads all the way through blah, 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 and this only applies because it does say it applies to a record fish. Shouldn't they put in there, hey, this rule does not apply to record fish. It just applies. We're going to use this rule, and it's applying to fish caught in this tournament.
In my opinion, I think they should list out every rule. But they also have the rules meeting, the captain's meeting, which is Sunday, the prayer breakfast, and then they go over the rules, and they go over them and they let you know, here's what it is. And I specifically remember someone, I can't remember if it was Rocky or someone. I mean, he was prominent in the sport fishing world, but he stood up and he was like, what about shark attacks? And they were like, follow the IGFA rules. So I remember that being brought up. And I actually had to go back because last year when we fished, I didn't even see that one. I saw weight altercation. I'm like, oh, how are you going to alter the weight of, you're talking 60, 70 pound dolphin, 400-pound blue marlin, like that they're going to cut open.
Okay, let me ask you this, John or Pete. You can chime in on this one. Okay, say Ashley said today, he wants to do away with that rule. He thinks it should be done away with. And he was asking for he said, people watching the public, if y'all want to do us a favor or get behind this rule to do away with that. Okay, quote, say they do away with that rule next year. Then how will things work if a shark hits a fish? You say, for instance, my thing is say a shark hits a fish, a great white, a hammerhead hits it, whatever. If say it takes 30 pounds out of a 500-pound fish, you just lose the 30 pounds, but you can still weigh the fish in. Is that the way?
I don't think what he meant was do away with the rule. I think he meant more so be more in depth with the rule, be more specific.
Oh, no, I thought he said he wanted to do away with it.
So he kind of made a mistake in that statement because before he said that, he mentioned just, add more verbiage to it. And then he said, do away with it, which
Yeah.
Basically what he meant was fix it in the first place.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I mean, if you watch that, Big Rock sent out the press release and they emailed all the participants, and it had the YouTube link on IGFA on explaining the rule and why. They claim that shark bit fish is weaker, and getting them in the boat, you don't have as much fight. But to me, honestly, you're battling two fish at that point. Like you're trying to keep a shark from attacking a $3.2 million fish. Like, my gosh, I feel like that's even more stressful. And it wasn't like he tore. And I think, Pete, there was a post that you had, and one of your buddies had said that they lost out a couple or $100,000 or something. Was it yours that I saw? Where the shark actually took the whole marlin pretty much, or at least I saw the head. There.
My buddy Josh Flynn last year, he had a shark. I mean, this was a huge wahoo. If I guessed, I would say it. Did you see that picture of his wahoo where he took?
Yeah, that's a good one. I'd say that's in the 70s or 80s for sure.
I think a lot of it has to do.
And these anglers, he got sharked, and it cost him over $100,000.
Like, I mean, Peter, you were talking earlier about having a crew, having someone to gaff the fish, someone to fight the fish, someone to clear the lines. I think you have to go from that angle whenever if you're in a blue marlin. I can understand if you got in the mahi division, but you're in the blue marlin division. You're catching a 600-pound fish that's probably one of the fastest fish in the ocean, and the damn thing weighs 600 pounds. Wow. Like, sharks don't even mess with them, right?
Don't.
So if you're fighting this fish, why not? Let's tag team this thing. Let's cycle some guys in. You got to stay on that reel. You can't be getting tired and taking little breaks, because that's when the sharks come in. Or do the sharks really bother these fish during the fight? Or
it's not a catfish. These fish got a lot more endurance.
I was going to ask if there was a blue catfish division. Is there a blue catfish division?
No.
A channel stripe.
There was another thing that was brought up, and me and the gentleman I was just talking about there again, I'm not going to say his name unless he wants me to mention his name on here. There was a lot of talk about why it took 6 hours to get that fish up. And I've also heard, and there again, I think tuna, I've heard them say it on Wicked Tuna before. A lot of these big pelagic fish, when they die, they do what's called a death dive or a death fall, where they just drop. And I think, actually said there were what, John, in about 900 foot of water?
2,000 foot of water.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm talking about when the fish dropped, they were trying to get him out of 900 foot of water.
I don't know exactly what depth they were.
Might have been 900 over 2,000 feet.
Yeah, I did not see the live stream today, or I try to stay off social media today. I was getting caught up after being gone for a week, but I did look at it yesterday, and I was kind of I was just surprised. I knew I had a feeling they were going to DQ it, and I knew that there would be an uproar, and I was like, it's just unfortunate, that it happened to those guys.
What do you think the decision will be?
I think they'll probably stick with it. I think.
Be right back, gents.
I mean, what do you do then? If they do overturn it, what about the other tournaments where they've DQ'd fish that have been shark bit? I mean, do they go back and protest? I think they have to stand their ground on it. Now, will they get sued? Possibly. I don't.
It's probably not the first time they've been sued. I mean, I'm sure that there has probably been appeals before, I would imagine.
Well, the fishing license one, that team sued, and they did settle for an undisclosed amount.
Okay.
So they did settle on that one. But yeah,
Now, what grounds did they sue? What basis did they have? They didn't have a damn fishing license. I mean,
well, no, they got one.
I don't know the full story, so I'm not gonna. I can't repeat it, but it's something. And I've heard several different stories, so that's why I don't know the correct one. But one story is the guy was getting the license on the way out as he was losing service, etc. The other story is he was getting a license on the way back in, and to me, if you got the license on the way back in, that didn't matter because you fished illegally. So I don't know the exact, but apparently when the guy, I ate breakfast with Builder's Choice gentleman who fished on the boat. His name's Joe. Can't remember his last name. Super nice guy. But he was telling me the story. The guy was apparently coming down from Virginia. That they drove down that morning at like 2 a.m. To go out fishing that day, or 1 a.m. And they were on the way out, and he was trying to get the license. And I don't know if it fully went through or didn't go through. It wasn't really. I was like, that story to me sucked, and I just know that they did settle for an undisclosed amount. So, and they'll probably do the same thing here. Give them a little something, but I don't think that Sushi's going to be revoked from first place.
Yeah.
Well, John, you said you had some footage for us.
I do. I haven't got it all compiled, but let's see.
Do you have any footage? You said y'all got hooked up on a marlin too, correct? For a short time.
We did, and I've got, let's see, video file. I have the end of it. And this was, let's see if this is it. June 13th. That is not it. Documents. So when we hit, not while I'm finding this, we had missed some, and I don't think they were marlin, they're just fish. It could have been wahoo, tuna, mahi, but the drag would scream, and the first mistake, obviously you're all excited, and you're trying to wait that 30 seconds, and that first one that went off, I think it was on Friday, I grabbed it and I started winding, and that was the first mistake. And there's just like one of those things, you're just so excited. You haven't had a bite all week, and it goes off, and you take it out of the fish's mouth. So,
okay, Benji, you're invited.
So it says, "Whoops, your video does not look like it has a video track." Let's see. I can do it from my phone. Back to the one that we did have hooked up. We left it in the rod holder, and we just let it run. Didn't put any drag on it. And when you're fishing for these fish, like, the drag is really light, because if you have a tight drag, they can feel the tension, and they will spit the hook. So my buddy Justin was actually on this one. He was reeling for, I think, 10 minutes. It was on. He was tightening the drag, kind of trying to wind. We were loosening the drag, letting it run, getting all the lines in. I mean, it's kind of chaotic when you do get one of these fish on. And it was about 10 minutes in, and you just saw the rod, the rod tip's like this. And when the rod tip goes like that and that clicker stops, it is just
sickening.
Yeah.
Heartbreak City.
Yeah. And
John,
we had
quick question.
Yep.
Quick question. And I haven't even thought about this. What speed were y'all trolling, or what speed do you troll for marlin?
So it's 8 to 10 knots. The seas were so rough when we would go up and down the ways. We were kind of getting that. All right, we're going 11 mile an hour, 12 mile an hour, then back to 8 when we were going up one.
Oh yeah, you know all about that, don't you, Wes?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we do.
So what was y'all trolling? Islanders, black barks?
Yep. I'll show you.
Actually,
we had squid chain on our long riggers. So this is one of the marlin rigs.
Wow, look at that thing.
Teaser. And these squid chains.
I've got that exact squid chain.
Yeah, those are awesome.
Now, why is that a squid chain? Look like flying fish to me.
Well, and I call it a squid chain. This was actually feathers with almost like bucktails. These squid chains, this is an actual squid chain. You can see the squid.
Oh, okay. I thought I seen wings.
And then the lure that we had several hits on was this guy. And in the video that I have, and we look too, you can see bite marks, or teeth marks, a scratch in the actual glass or the polymer on this lure. But I mean, these are big.
Those are big.
12-inch marlin.
What size mono leaders on that? It looks like about a 200.
This one has 330, I believe. And you can feel it too, where it's chafed, where
Wow.
the bill was hitting it.
That's crazy.
And before the fish went off, the clicker went off, my buddy Justin that fished, he was like 2 minutes in and or 2 minutes prior, he was like, something's boiling up back there on the shotgun, which was where we were pulling. Everything else was pretty much set up for mahi and tuna and wahoo. And we had that one marlin rig and we had a teaser out of it. He was like, something's boiling up back there. And I tried to go back and look and I did not see, I didn't have any footage that was recorded of it. I had turned it on once he was towards the end, but he swears that he saw Bill come up, because what they do is they come up and you can see the bill smack the fish, right? They're trying to kill it with the bill and then they attack it. We were using a horse ballyhoo on that one. And the other thing that I learned from this tournament was you have to have seasoned bait. Big rookie mistake there, and partly because we came in late every night. Our bait Friday we got in at 11:30, which I can go into that story here in a second. But we got in at 11:30. All the bait shops were closed. I had 2 packs of ballyhoo left. I had we put a little bit of brine on it and put it in a salt bath for 3 hours, 4 hours. We were back asleep or back out. And so you could tell the difference Saturday when we fished. Like literally, we had to change them out every 30 minutes. We had 2 dozen ballyhoo, so we were fishing, a lot of just artificial lures with no ballyhoo.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I still got some on my boat, and I need to get them off because it rusts everything. I got it in a Ziploc baggie, and I try to keep it away from everything. But you have to be careful with that the seasoning, the salts and stuff that you buy to brine those ballyhoo, because they will rust out anything that you put them in there with.
Will regular table salt work?
No, you have to use kosher salt. So what we do is we get 2 bottles of kosher salt. We take our bait cooler, we fill it half with ice, water. You put a container of salt, kosher salt in first, stir it up, mix it, let it sit for 15 minutes. And if you can't hold your finger in there for more than a second or two, it's right. And then you dump the other bottle of salt in, and a little bit of Clorox. And my uncle's fished the Big Rock several times, and he goes with us and kind of helps us prepare. But he says the Clorox is what keeps the bait from turning brown. So we could definitely tell when we had the seasoned bait. We had a lot more strikes, and we were fishing 9/0 hooks. Like we were going after big fish. Magic brine, I don't use it. We make our own. I'm cheap.
So like when you go, say for instance, I go fishing this Saturday and I go down to Bowling Nose or Cricket Cove Marina, wherever I buy my bait, and I get a pack of ballyhoo that's froze. When I unthaw it, does it need to be brined, or do I need to brine it if I'm going? So I always brine it.
Well, if you want it to last longer while you're trolling, it's just like buying seasoned bait when you're going striper fishing.
Yeah, it stiffens it up. And I mean, like I said, we could tell it because we didn't have the time to brine more bait after Friday. Saturday we fished with non-seasoned bait, and it literally it just would fall apart. They would blow out. It didn't matter if you remove the shit out of it or whatever. Some people fish it with it in. I've always removed it, but
it's yours, Wes.
I pop my eyeballs out. I'll break their back, make them wiggle, and I always push the poop out of them.
So we tried a few different tactics. I usually use nose cones. I actually went with the ringer. They're like these copper wires with the rubber washer on the top, and you rig them, rig your chin weight through it and wrap it around the nose. And we tried those. We tried nose cones. I mean,
now, is ballyhoo the only? I don't. It's just dawned on me to ask this question. Is ballyhoo the only bait that you can pull like that, like dead baits that'll hold? What else can you pull like that?
So there's boats out there. The guys that are after those big marlin, they're sewing up mackerel They're sewing up pogies, mullet.
Mullet were pretty good.
Yeah, mullet. We saw a lot of boats. I think Iron Leader, which is a 72-foot Jarrett Bay. I mean, you're talking $7 million boat. We saw their crew out there sewing up mullet. That's a job. Something I'm not experienced with. I just was watching them as I was eating, and I was like, man, it took that guy 20 minutes just to sew up one bait. They got 6 people working on a table, sewing these baits up, getting ready for the next day. But
what about another bait that's say in line with a ballyhoo?
So bonita, tuna, mini tuna, whatever they call them, little toonie. Bonita they use, and they'll also use live bait. So they will, if they use a dredge or a teaser, they wait for that billfish to come up and smack the teaser, or they see it. The guy on the fly bridge can see the fish after the teaser, and then they'll pitch the live bait back to it. What's
a dredge? What's a dredge? I've heard that term used a lot. I don't know what that is.
So dredge is on a automatic reel, and it has it. A lot of the dredges it's either artificial Spanish mackerel, or they'll have live baits attached to like a giant umbrella rig, but they're dropping it down. It's not on the surface of the water. It actually goes down, and they'll put it on an electric reel. These guys are using, again, this $200,000. Don't have as much fishing gear as you. I only have about $10,000 rods to my left, but no. So, I mean,
quality over quantity, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I did pick up a new rod, which was kind of cool down there. It was given to me for free, so I thought that's cool.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the dredge, they use those automatic reels. They'll let it down. They're using omnidirectional sonar. They're marking the fish, at 9 a.m., driving right over to it. And it's crazy because you can see, we're trolling this weed line. There's 40 sport fishes. We knew we were in prime location, right? I mean, all these waist knot, all these big boats, Sea Toy, they're all around us. And the one that we missed, waist knot, was passing. We were on one side of the weed line, waist knot was on the other. And when we missed it, literally 10 minutes later, you could hear waist knot hooked up. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, it just sucked. But and you could see these boats, we're trolling a weed line, and then all of a sudden they'll break off the weed line and they'll go like do a box. They'll cut 90, cut another 90, and it's because they got the omnidirectional and they've spotted a marlin. And they're going to go over and drop.
Is that thing I heard somebody say that they're talking about the cost of these boats and what it costs to run them and what it costs to do charters, and they said they've got some shit on them now that they can mark a fish 2 or 3 miles. They can see a fish in the water for miles or some shit, or a mile, or
I think it's half a mile. But I was talking to the guy. I've never seen it in person. I've seen videos of it. The guys that I ate breakfast with Wednesday, Builder's Choice guy, or Thursday morning, Builder's Choice guys. I asked him, I was like, how helpful is it? And he was like, it's very helpful. I said, so you can see a half mile? And he was like, well, we actually about 1,000 feet. And he said, well, as we get closer to the fish, we'll draw it even closer to it. But he's like, you can't compete with
Now that's got to be, blue water. They're at a couple thousand feet, so that water's absolutely crystal clear. You wouldn't be able to use that on Lake Wiley, would you?
Why would you want to?
Yeah, I don't know that
Well, listen, I'm still in shock that Little Tunny is pronounced Little Tooney. He said Little Tooney, and I'm like, I've been saying Little Tunny my whole life.
It's Little Tooney.
Okay. I've always said Little Tunny.
Hey, does anybody know what?
Have you ever tried to eat one of those? Have you guys, Wes? Have you ever tried to eat a Little Tooney?
I can't eat pure blood.
Ooh-wee. I did that once.
Hey, what's Matthew Miles talking about here? Better hope the Senate Bill 686 doesn't pass. We won't be having these conversations.
Obviously deals with fishing.
Matt, John, show us some video.
Let's invite Matt on the show. How about that? He can tell us what that Senate Bill 686 is.
Since my stuff is not working.
Send him an invite.
Okay.
I'll show you day one.
You could have done that last week.
Yeah, no, I don't have them loaded on my computer. So this is day one, bad thunderstorms. It was rough. It was, I think, 4 to 8, and then a squall came through. The temperature dropped 20 degrees, and you knew it was about to be rough. And that storm lasted about 30 seconds. I actually recorded at the end of it. And here's right after. I mean, you can just see our boat getting tossed around like a rag doll. And again, the videos don't do it justice. You know, I think I had posted some videos out there, and some people were commenting like, "Oh, this look like 2 to 3s," and you know,
Yeah, they always do.
The bigger boats are like, guys, you don't understand. Like, we're in a, you know,
you can go to wide angle on your phone and like just hold it down like almost at sea level, and it helps give people an idea.
Yeah, it was rough. So Monday was rough, and then I did not fish Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday because it was really rough. Friday, we went out, and I'll tell you how rough it was. We went to there's a hole like right off of Ocracoke. It's about 50,
Shark hole. No, I'm just kidding.
52 miles out, I think, from the shoals, Cape Lookout shoals, and we tried to troll back towards Big Rock Hole, which is south, and it was so rough we couldn't do it. So we turned around and we literally trolled, 8 mile an hour, 10 mile an hour, the entire day. So I looked on the map, we were in front of Cape Lookout almost, and or not Cape Lookout, Cape Hatteras. And still 40, 50 miles offshore. I think at one point we saw 7,200 feet. And at the end of the tournament, and we were around 50 boats, you know what I'm saying? We were like, we know we're in a good spot.
That's that purple water, Wes.
Oh yeah, it was purple. 80, I think we saw 81 degrees was the warmest water we saw. So we were in the Gulf. But 3 o'clock came, and then we turned around, and all you saw were these boats just disappearing, and all we could do was 10 mile an hour. Well, I put in the shoals as my destination, and you're an hour ahead when you're offshore. You know, as soon as you get, I think, 5 or 10 miles out, you're an hour ahead. So it said 10 o'clock ETA to the shoals, which was really 11. And we got back in at 11:30. We had the Coast Guard called. My wife was calling the Coast Guard. Everybody was worried because we were out. So that was why Saturday we had no season bait, because we literally, I think we got the boat in at.
Why didn't you hit the E-perp?
Well, so I have a Zoleo, which is like a satellite messenger E-perb, and I charged it up before I left, and I had actually cut it on our return after I saw the ETA, and I have to give Zoleo a bad review, at least for this, but it said, update required, no internet necessary, please place in clear view to acquire satellite signal to download the update. Well, I did this for like hours trying to get it to work, and it was just 5 minutes, it would time out and retry. So the entire time my mom's sitting there looking, she can't see, because it'll update your coordinates if whoever's following you asks for it. So they were worried. They were like, I don't see their coordinates, I can't find them. It was, I mean, for us it was okay, but and then too, you don't have VHF, like you're 80 miles from home. All these other boats have gone in, the repeater boats have gone in, because at that point it's 4:30, and it was just.
Now, what's a repeater boat?
So VHF on our boat probably works 10-15 miles line of sight. They do have a repeater boat or Coast Guard out there with bigger antennas and other boats fishing the tournament have the satellite or bigger VHF antennas. They can reach back to Big Rock headquarters. So when you land a fish, you have to radio it in, or if you have boat problems, you radio it in. But that repeater boat repeats, your call.
Matthew, what color drawers you got on?
I took them off now. So
well, damn.
What's the Senate Bill 686?
You guys aren't familiar with that?
It's something about communication, isn't it?
No, so Senate Bill 686, so that's North Carolina Senate Bill 686. Basically, it subjects any what they call a fin fish, or any fish like a red drum, trout. The definition expands to basically any sort of game fish that you might see in a tournament here in the saltwater. But basically, it says any tournaments are illegal if the Department of Wildlife Fisheries for North Carolina determines that fish population is at risk. So, we've been dealing with the trout issues and the flounder issues here along the coast. And so if the Department of Wildlife or Fisheries, whatever they call it here, I move so much, it's hard to keep track. Every state calls it different. But if they determine, hey, the population's at risk this year, and they release that information 1 year, that year, that would make every tournament illegal. So you can't have tournaments. You can't even use if they said, hey, there's a shortage of mullet out there. You couldn't use mullet for bait, not only in tournaments but recreationally at all. So I encourage you to look up North Carolina Senate Bill 686, read the text, and write every freaking senator and congressman you have that you can think of, because it's sponsored by a lot of folks up there.
A lot of Karens.
Like in the interior part of the state. And it's totally just like, it screws everybody on the coast big time. It also makes guiding for those fish illegal. So if you are a guide, and I mean, it would decimate the entire recreational and guide fishing and tournament fishing industries on the coast of North Carolina.
So is that why y'all come down to South Carolina and kill our flounder?
Exactly.
100%.
Or it's just catch and release into the grease.
Yeah, I know, right?
If they can't find it, then But yeah, it's pretty bad. Like I said, I'd encourage you to check it out and read it. It'll piss you off in a heartbeat. But hey, I was at Big Rock a few days this week, man. It was a good show. I got to see those 3 fish weighed in Friday. Sushi and I forget the other 2 that came in. It was a good
Sensation.
show. I wasn't there for that. I already had one too many Coors Lights. So.
Coors Light.
You weren't drinking Bud Light? I think you might have been drinking Bud Light.
Nah, don't get that shit near me. Sorry.
I thought you was a Bud Light guy.
Never. No, never. Even before this whole debacle, no, I didn't drink.
I know, I haven't. I've never seen you drink Bud Light until recently.
Well, I was inspired by this very artistic video that one of my favorite content creators put out.
I need to make a video. I hadn't made one in a while. I need to make one.
Yeah, I know, right?
I know Wes has been getting on to me.
So John, what all did y'all catch? I might have missed a conversation on my phone call there earlier, but your fishing days, did you guys do much of anything?
No, we were skunked. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Well, you had the one hook. Well, yeah, you had the one hook up that was the top dog. You said you passed them on the weed line.
That was Waste Not.
That's right, Waste Not. Yeah.
Passed us. And I do have. Let me see if this will work. I just converted the file. I have all GoPro footage, and apparently I can't share .move files. Let's see if this works.
It was rough out there. We tried going out Thursday, and we couldn't make it out of the inlet in a 21-foot sea hunt.
Well, there you go, guys. A 21-foot Parker defeats a 21-foot sea hunt.
Yeah, well, those guys.
Anything is possible. He's got to go 8 knots.
No, their balls were much bigger than mine because these were like 10 foot. I mean, like when you couldn't see above the wave in that boat. Yeah, it was white knuckle fishing.
I mean, they say that the boat can handle a lot more than the anglers can. You know,
yeah, I believe
that's what I tell my friends. They're like, I'm not going offshore and spending all night out there with y'all.
There we go.
So this was after there's Waste Not passing us, and this is well that we missed. But this is what we were dealing with. Fish that were mutilated but not disqualified. And you can kind of see the boat rocking there. It doesn't really do it justice, but yeah, I mean, I have a ton of footage. I haven't had a chance. Wes threw me on the spot at
John. You just did that on your own, didn't you?
I did, but I had to convert it. It won't take my raw GoPro.
Freaking IT guy over here. God, that's awesome.
Yeah, Scott, it was not fun.
Yeah.
He said that looks so fun. That boat looks small.
Yeah, so we fished buddy of mine, Justin Alverson, one of his mentors or our friends, who's super nice gentleman. He drove for UPS for 42 years. He retired, 70 some years old. He went out and fished with us every day and got beat up and handled it better than any of us. I couldn't believe it. Honestly, I was like, his nickname's Driver, but we fished a 30-foot well craft. I was super surprised because, I'd never been on a well craft. I've heard some stuff about them, but the boat was solid. I mean, it would smack those waves.
Hey, every well craft I've ever been on has been rock solid.
That thing was, I fished in my 24, I call it a 24, it's 23 and 9 inches, but last year, and when I was out in 4 to 6s, it felt like the boat was going to fall apart when it would crest a 6 foot and smack. T-top shaking, outriggers going crazy. So
most boats, not all boats, but most boats can take more than you can.
That's the truth. And the guy that I ate breakfast with from Builder's Choice, he told me, he said he hates the Fabulous Fisherman, which is the one, first fish boated over 500 pounds, because he said it makes people fish days that they typically wouldn't fish. Everybody fishes the first day. They were calling for horrible thunderstorms. I think 225 boats fished. And he was just like, I don't like it, that it's the first boated blue marlin over 500 pounds. But, and he said that their rule of thumb is for every, I think, 10 foot of boat, they don't go out for 1 foot of wave, and they're in a 62. So he's like, if it's over 6 foot, we typically don't go out unless, $840,000 is on the line or $780,000 on the line.
And supposedly there was a boat that got struck by lightning out there.
Yep. So the April, May got struck, and they passed us on the way out because, again, we could only go about 15 mile an hour in 6 foot waves. But they passed us on the way out. We went to Swansboro Hole Monday, and they went, I think, 10 miles out further than that. I talked to the guy a little bit, and his name's actually Matt, but they were struck by lightning. The Sea Wolf came to their aid, which I thought was pretty cool. You're fishing for money in a tournament, and they went out there. They lost all their electronics. They had one motor. They tried to get limp back in. They blew a transmission. So they were literally dead in the water with nothing. And the guy was telling the story, and he said, Sea Wolf came out there. They stayed with us for a little bit, and then he said Coast Guard finally got there at 1 a.m. Tried to tow them back, and did tow them back as much as they could. He said that Sea Tow, when they had requested assistance, Sea Tow couldn't get out of the inlet 3 times and said, we'll come get you tomorrow. And the Coast Guard, which I didn't know they would tow you back. I thought you're dead in the water, right? Like, I thought Coast Guard's just there for life saving, but they did tow them back, I think, to the 10-mile mark. And Monday morning, Sea Tow came out at 8 a.m. and I think they got back in at lunchtime.
What did they do? Wow. Just throw an anchor where they were?
That's insane.
How did they stay where they were?
No, you're not throwing an anchor out there in those.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Did they drift or something? How did they stay within that 10-mile mark?
No, that's when the Coast Guard had them. Coast Guard brought them back in, 30-some miles.
But, you said they had to stay at a 10-mile mark overnight until Sea Tow come got them.
No, they traded off there.
They traded off.
Oh, okay, I got you.
So one of the boats that was in the tournament, Sea Wolf, stayed with them until the Coast Guard got to their aid, and Coast Guard started towing them back, and they towed them to the 10-mile mark, and Sea Tow came and got them.
YOLO, baby.
Got back in at lunch, and I don't know what the damage is, but fried electronics, wiring. He had a picture of the one of the outriggers that was struck, or their tuna pole, whatever they call it, tuna slam, that got struck. I mean, it was like
green stick. Yeah,
like green stick. It was bent in half, like where lightning hit it.
Wow.
And but yeah, he had a video of it, and he shows like videos going. It was pitch black, and then you just see like he rolls around to like the sunrise, and he's like, "Thank God."
Hey John, have you got any video of when y'all's marlin hit?
So I have. Let's see. Don't have anything on my phone. I have everything in GoPro footage.
Okay.
And we also fished a flying fish or a bird. I don't know, Pete. Have you ever seen those?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And we fished that on a shotgun Friday, and we actually had a ton of hits on that. I mean, I think tuna really liked those, but whatever it was, we just didn't have
my cousin. If he's watching this show, he's getting like this right now. Because he loves this stuff, man.
Now, were any blackfin tuna caught? No blackfin were caught this year.
Blackfin.
You can't.
Bluefin. I'm sorry.
No, and I don't. The yellowfin tuna is the only game fish that you can weigh in.
Oh, okay.
Yellowfin, mahi, and
so no blue catfish, correct?
No blue channels.
No blue channels.
Channel stripers.
Nope.
So okay.
But yeah, it was a fun experience. I mean, it was definitely rough. I was going to try to play it by ear. I looked at the weather before I entered, and I saw a few good days. I was like, let's do it. But literally,
and then they're gone.
the only day, and Saturday, we had that morning, because it was from the rough weather Friday. Saturday morning, it was super rough getting out. We saw the 10 to 12s. They were a little bit more spaced out. And then the wind laid at around 12 o'clock. And it was like you could snap your fingers, and it just was like flat.
Oh, wow.
I mean, literally, we put the boat on top of the water and ran 40 mile an hour back in. That was the only day we put the boat on plane.
Wow. So you showed us some of the lures that you were using.
Yep.
What's some of the rod and reel setups that you have?
I actually have some over here that need to be cleaned.
What's your guesses, Pete? What's your guesses, Wes, Matt? I'm going to say 80 wide.
Go
80 wide, or what size?
50 wide.
50 wide?
So
yeah.
Here's my
That's
newest
50.
one. This is a Abbott 50. I don't know that you can see it, but
oh yeah, Abbott, baby, made in America. Woo!
we have. I've got 5 of these. These are Tiagra 80s.
Tiagra 80s, Japanese. You got them Japanese reels, Wes. There they are, buddy.
That's quality, baby.
I did not fish this rod, but this is the one I acquired for free.
That's an international.
How
VSW.
the hell did you acquire for free? I got out of here.
That's a pin.
So, all right. Last year, my cousin, my uncle has fished it several times. He fished it with us last year. He's experienced. But my cousin, Steve, fished it last year with us, and he has a place on Harker's Island. And he's always wanted a World Cat, and he bought all this offshore stuff to go offshore, right? Here's one of the rods. He had probably $400 or $500 in tackle that I also got for free. But we went out on a day, it was 4 to 6s, 5 seconds apart, and that broke him. And so when I got down there this year, my uncle was like, hey, Steve left all his stuff from last year. He said he was done saltwater fishing after that Big Rock tournament.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what about the reel? He wasn't going to sell it. He said he just left it. He said he was done. He was never going back out. So I got, I don't know, $600-700. And this one's 10 years old.
What is that? Is that a VSW?
It just says V. Oh yeah, 50 VSW.
Yeah.
I'm not a big pin guy. I just, all the.
That's the best reel you got. That's better than your Tiagras and your.
If you look at all those boats down there, those $7-10 million boats, they've all got Shimano's. Every single one of them.
Yeah, of course they do.
130s.
Just because all the rich guys have Shimano's does not mean that Shimano's the best. It just means they're the most expensive.
I don't know,
man. I don't know about that.
Those things are they're quality. I always watch them.
Well, no doubt. Shimano's definitely top of the food chain, but Penn makes some good reels. Abbott makes some good reels, and there are other brands that make some good reels too.
So, John, you ready for the next experience? The U.S. Open?
Yeah.
What's happening?
There's going to be hopefully something in between there. But
there ain't too much in between.
I think I would be rocking a 130.
Oh.
I would be rocking a 130 if I was going to get in that blue marlin category. I would be trying to get that fish in. I would want the biggest, heaviest freaking tackle I could possibly get, because you're going to get disqualified and lose $3.7 million if something happens to that fish before you get it boated. So why wouldn't you just go for the 130 and screw the 80 wides?
I don't know. Have you held a 130?
Yeah, you're not going to but these guys aren't standing up, right? They're not using stand up.
No, and in a center console, you have to fight it from the rod holder. I mean,
that's right. Yeah, you get one of those pivoting bent butts and just leave that thing in the rod holder and get it in.
Yeah, I don't have.
JR lives in a fancy world.
I don't have anything like that, but yeah, it was a good experience. I mean, I think the 130 we were looking at the other day, my brother-in-law Lane, who's watching on here, but I was like, the max drag on an 80 is 44 pounds, and the max drag on a 130 is 85 pounds or something like that, 88 pounds. It's a big jump. Big jump.
It is a big jump.
Yeah, double the max drag.
Oh, okay, yeah. 40 to 80, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Scott Perry. Scott said,
yells as fuck.
Scott Perry says, I think this was aimed at you, John.
Put it on there.
He said, from the Big Rock to the U.S. Open, I'm sure he won't be able to sleep now, Pete.
Well, I'm actually really excited to fish with I'm actually really excited to fish, and Pete didn't
try to contain it, John.
Your boat fished what tournament was it that finished 7th, right? You were not on it, correct? What's up with that?
My boat's a fish catching son of a bitch, man. I mean, it's plain simple. Both saltwater, freshwater, all of it. Don't matter.
Hey, I'm going to tell you right now, Pete's if he's out there, he's trolling A-rigs for them damn blue marlin.
That's right. Yeah, little coat hangers, right?
So is that a dredge? Is that what he's calling a dredge?
Are we going back to the dredge?
Well, I mean, there's two different. Some people, the dredge I think goes deeper, but they also have teasers.
Wes does a great job playing on YouTube and Google dredge. Wes,
yeah,
you get your answer real quick how it works. Or sorry, YouTube dredge. They got dredges with like cameras hooked up in the front where you can actually watch the marlin come up and slap it.
I ain't getting into all that shit. I don't want to catch no marlin. I don't want to catch nothing bigger than my fucking boat.
I'm telling you, it's a world-class fish. Not many people.
All a dredge is. It ain't nothing but something to attract fish. That's a dredge. That's an offshore dredge right there.
Oh, that's just a bougie. What do you call it? Umbrella rig.
Well, there's no hooks on that though. Right. It's not.
It's a $500 umbrella rig.
Yeah, just a bougie umbrella rig.
Just teasers, all it is.
They don't have room for all that on a small boat.
Where do they get the word dredge from? Why don't they just call it a damn?
Oh my God! There's so many fancy. It's fancy.
I think they're heavier. Like there is a difference between a teaser and a dredge, but I think the dredge dives deeper, and they usually put them on electric reels.
Look at what offshore fishermen go through just to see all that writing. See all that writing, Wes?
That's just fancy.
Yeah, that's just
salt.
Look, it's just salt, bro.
Kosher salt,
it's just kosher salt.
Water,
that's all that is.
And a little bit of Clorox is all you need for your brine. I don't know how Pete does his.
See, ice, water, and brine, and Clorox.
Hey, JR, I got that same shit for 99 fucking cents.
Exactly.
You got that shit.
It's got a fucking grinder on it too.
Listen, man, those fish, you could throw out a milk jug with a hook on it, and they're going to hit it. I mean, all of these Islanders and Black Barts and all of this is just to capitalize on dumbass rich people.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about Fathom. Apparently, Fathom is like a huge marketing ploy that doesn't catch fish. I don't know. I did notice that their marlin rigs were double what some of the stuff down there costs, but I don't know. I wasn't going to buy one.
Hey guys, I'm going to hop off here and jump in the
what? No,
yeah,
you can't leave. I'm not. You're not allowed to leave until.
You never told Wes what
9:30.
color your drawers were. What do you say, drawers?
He said he took them off. They're no color.
Oh, no color.
Okay, Matt, you have to go, buddy.
Yeah, man, I gotta go. Nice chat with you guys.
All right, man. See you. Bye.
We'll see you, buddy.
But yeah, so subject change. U.S. Open. Let's hear Pete's strategy on kingfishing.
I'll tell you about to kill you. There's 12 other people watching right now that might have. I'm just kidding.
16.
It's the same thing every year, man. It's all one within 10 miles of the beach.
But it's similar to striper fishing, season bait.
I do very well. I do very well with the U.S. Open usually. So, yeah, it'll be fun. There'll be fish caught.
Cool.
Now, is it bigger than Rumble in the Jungle?
Oh, it's the biggest king tournament in the nation.
Oh my goodness! I bought a koozie, guys. I bought this koozie. See, it's got a shark on it.
Oh hell!
And inside the koozie, there's a necklace. This is like a Scott Perry special. It has like a hook on it. See the hook?
Gay.
Yeah. Look here. You pull it apart like this.
Oh, you're a real fisherman now.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Here.
You got the necklace with
Scott Perry, baby. Uh-oh, I got it in my mic. Of course.
So Wes, do you hate sharks now?
Well,
hold on. Wes,
he said, well.
Wes, didn't you lose a wahoo to a shark here recently also?
Well, I didn't want to say it while JR's on here. Yeah, I don't really care for sharks no more.
Oh my goodness.
Dude, one of them hit the biggest one of the biggest wahoos I had on this year. Shark got him.
And you were like one of the biggest proponents for shark fishing.
I feel like a spinner shark, but spinner sharks ain't doing the damage at the hammerheads and the tiger sharks and the whatever they are. I mean, but I think everything's got its place in the ocean. But I know there's a lot of sharks being caught off in North Myrtle Beach right now, less than 10 miles out. It's like this year they're infested with them. I mean, even all the guide boats, they're out there shark fishing. If you go on a trip now, if you get on a charter out of North Myrtle Beach, if you're not going to the stream, they're out there catching sharks.
Exactly.
Easy money, man. Easy money.
Yeah, easy money.
Let's see.
Yep.
I do have one more video. Let's see if this. I don't know why my technology.
So I am actually going to the beach this weekend. I think we might, with the forecast, we might actually end up kingfishing. So we'll see how that goes. Kingfishing and cobia fishing.
That doesn't surprise me, Benji. I'm sure he probably has.
Let's see the library.
Peter's on it.
And my boy. You go, boy. You find it, John?
I am getting it now. Let's see. Here's one of the. I have to send. Testing my IT skills here.
Dun dun dun. Computer nerd and porn star.
Computer nerd.
Present. Share. All right. Screenshot. I had to take a screenshot of it, but here is coming out the inlet. Let's see. Just that window.
Send Dieter an invite, Wes.
All right, hold on. Did he say send him one?
He did not, but Benji said that he covered this. So he's probably pretty knowledgeable on it. Probably got some good questions for John.
It does not work.
It ain't working.
I don't know what it is.
Just hold your phone up to the camera like we do.
So here is going out the inlet. I'm just trying to take pictures or videos of it being rough.
Yeah. Wow.
Them were 2 footers. What's wrong with them?
Yeah.
2.5 at best. Come on.
2.5. Yeah, I'm gonna Pete at least 2.5. I'll give you that.
John, I know how it is, buddy. Trust me.
Honestly, they were when you have big 60-foot boats coming in and saying they got beat to shit, and you're out there in a 30-foot center console and they got a salon and air condition.
Now, what kind of boat were you in, John?
It was a 30-foot Wellcraft.
Okay. Buddy.
That's what
That's the next boat Wes is going to get here soon.
I think
You're
that's
talking about entry fees for the big rock there. What is that, like one service call for you, Wes?
No, that's gonna be service calls.
one service call. I think old David Mercer's got a Wellcraft.
Now, hold on a minute. I'm gonna
That's
introduce
what he
y'all.
has.
Jagger, this is my buddy JR. He does videos and fishes with Papa, and that's John Longest.
Hey, Jagger.
He fished a big tournament, and this little fella right here is about your height. His name's Pete Malik, and he's a friend. He's one of Papa's good friends. He showed Papa a lot when it comes to fishing. What do you think about that?
Good.
Is that good?
He said good.
And
I
Look
think
at Riggs. Looks like
oh,
Papa
he's
does it.
asleep. I think Jagger is the coolest name I've ever heard before. I
Yeah.
think that is an awesome name.
So thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Deer said, "Did y'all hear about that Marlin tournament?"
This
Deer, I sent you
I
an
have
invite.
no idea, Dieter. Not a clue.
So this is a picture
Wow.
going out the inlet. You could see like the fleet lined up, and you could see. I mean,
Yeah.
so those boats
nasty.
alone produce 6-foot waves.
Exactly. It's nasty.
Here's one of the pictures.
Benji Smith said David Mercer does not have a Wellcraft.
This is a.
Does.
I mean, look at that sport fish taking that wave. I mean,
Wow. Yeah. If that don't tell you, I don't know what does.
it was nasty. I have to come.
Well, who's Alex Longest? Is that somebody kin to you?
Gotta be.
It
Gotta
is.
be.
So that is my cousin. He actually went out. He was visiting. He wanted to see it, and my uncle Friday the night before, we got in so late. He laid, and Alex joined us. So I think Alex can probably attest to some of those waves. He was going out. He was like, "What size is that? What size is that?" But yeah,
Me too.
Close your eyes.
yeah, they were pretty big, but it's fun nonetheless. Sporty, yeah.
So are you going, was this your first year or second year of fishing it, John?
This was the second year I fished it, and I'll definitely do it again. I've been offshore maybe 15 times, fishing out for that stuff. So my experience just isn't there. Now my uncle, I think he's fished 15 tournaments, and I think they won the Dolphin winner take all one year, like in 2008 or something. So that's where I've learned a ton from him, and he knows, kind of where to go and what to look for, what to troll. But it was just rough, man. It's hard to keep your baits in the water. It's hard to fish. It's hard to maintain your speed. I mean, if you look
Baits popping up and down.
well, I mean, sometimes that's what you want, right? But we fish them a little bit closer, and it doesn't create the same, sport fish kind of smooths the water out behind it. You still see rolling waves back behind our boat. And you look at out of the 271 boats, you've got Michael Jordan catch 23, $15 million Viking or whatever it is. They didn't hook up. They didn't release. I mean, they didn't catch anything. No. And it just happens. But Friday, where we were at, I've never seen that many boats around. So we knew we were in a good spot. And we had a bunch of hits, just nothing on. And I think maybe if we went down to like a 7/0 hook, we probably would have had some meat in the boat. But I was trying to win some money, man.
Yeah. Dieter Melhorn.
Break
I
even,
sent
right?
Get you an invite, Dieter.
You're right, Keith. You're right.
Team Little Peter and John Longest. Team name.
I think Scott is really jealous right now. All he wants to do is talk shit about this tournament fishing. I tell you.
Hey,
Look,
look at the team
I got new boots for Father's Day, so those hucks, and I now have hucks that are free for grab.
He's saying huck. Come on.
John, hey,
I have hucks that are free for grab, and have some
John,
extra
do you see the team name, right? If you and Peter fish together, team name's gonna be the longest Peter.
Yeah. We'll do it.
Damn. Team longest Peter. Damn.
MJ probably fired their ass too. What's Keith talking about?
Yep.
The crew didn't catch a fish. They're fired.
Oh,
Yeah, and I never saw. I didn't even see his jet down there. Yeah, he flies in on his Nike jet or whatever. Elephant print
Nike
jet.
Air.
And you can hear it when it comes over where my uncle lives. It's kind of like the flight path, and we saw it fly in last year, and this year didn't hear it fly in pre-tournament and didn't see it at the airport. They don't have a hangar big enough for it, so it parks at the end of the hangars, where they kind of all drive in and park. Pete probably knows the terminology better than I do, but huge jet. Never saw it down there. Never. Usually they have footage of him coming back in or smoking a cigar or whatever. Never saw that.
Car picking him up at the ramp there.
Yeah, he's too busy selling a basketball team. I think what was the number on that? $2 billion, billions of dollars.
I saw a number like he bought it for like 180 million, I think. It's over 2 billion. Hell, what a damn profit.
Return on investment.
Yeah.
He lost 42,000 plus fuel last weekend.
Drop in a bucket.
So the other thing I was talking to Builder's Choice about on fuel burn in their boat, I think they're in a 62 Jarrett Bay. They burn. He told me it depends on how far they run, but he said on the first day they went to the southern point of the southern point that you could go, and he said they burned 270 gallons of diesel.
Damn.
So
I'm actually shocked with that. I figured that more boats would go to the northernmost point up there towards Hatteras.
Well, I think and I was looking at the windy map for water temperatures, and we kind of had a mild spring and it hasn't really been hot yet. That water temperature, if you look on windy and look at the sea temp, there was really only one hole out from Hatteras that had 80, 79 degree water. All that warm water was south, like 80 miles out from Wilmington or whatever. I don't know what the southern tip is because I would never drive that far south to fish it. But yes, I would say 80% of the boats go to Hatteras. Yep.
Dieter Melhorn should be here any minute.
You heard that, didn't you, Wes? Peter?
What's up?
80% of the boats go to Hatteras.
Yep. Beer back.
Yeah, I need a beer. $3 billion. JR, what would you do with $3 billion? Would you buy a sport fish?
Fellas. I'll be right back.
Would you buy a sport fish to catch catfish with?
I would use every dime of it to land on the moon. What would you do with $3 billion, Dieter?
Oh, I would have fun giving away at least $1 billion of it. I would just give it away wholesale. So I don't know what I'd do after that with it. I'd get a boat. I'd pay you to stay off the internet and off of social media.
Yeah. Dieter! I heard Dieter.
Everybody took a break when Dieter come on.
If I had $3 billion, honestly, I know a lot of children that will not go to bed hungry for a long time.
Oh, dude, I'd have so much fun with that.
Yeah, exactly.
With giving that money away. I mean, how much? You don't need it. I mean, that's the bottom line. You don't.
And that's
You
just
don't
on
need
paper.
that much. Yeah, you don't need that much money. So yeah, I'd have fun with billions of dollars giving it away. So
Scott said he would buy the best cornhole bags. So JR, what's the best cornhole bags? How much do
The
they cost?
best cornhole bags right now used to be Game Changers. They used to call those the cheater bags, but right now the Viper R's would be the probably your best bet for it. It's a hybrid carpet bag made by Ultra, and that's probably either that or the BG Sorcerers.
All right,
There's your cornhole update for today.
how many?
Scott,
how many
Perry,
130s?
the only thing missing is Charlie Sheen.
How many of those Tiagra 130s would you buy?
Tiagra 130s? None. Nobody needs a 130. I mean, we're talking the Big Rock, the biggest tournament in North Carolina.
You just said, why doesn't everyone use a 130?
I did, but obviously they're not needed because nobody was using them. Everybody was using 80 wides.
I was 2 rooms away, and I heard I would pay his ass to stay off the internet, and I laughed.
Hey, so has a lawsuit been filed yet?
They got to go through that 5-day
The arbitration part.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's your take on it, Dieter? What do you think about
Yeah,
it?
what's your take on rule number 23?
I think they got horribly unlucky is what it comes down to. I think they're great fishermen, did everything they were supposed to, and the rule is pretty clear. You can argue it all you want to, but it's there in the books, and they just got unlucky. They didn't do anything wrong. It's one thing when you do something wrong, like don't have a North Carolina saltwater fishing license or something, but yeah, they did everything right. It's just they had some Mother Nature just got some revenge. And
let's put it this way: there's definitely a lot more sharks in the ocean now than there were 10 years ago, and this is going to be a constant problem now.
I heard that Captain McCoy was offering 50% off catch and kill shark trips for the all the way through July. So I may go shark fishing with him and kill everyone, because I got a feeling there won't be a live shark on the side of his boat for years to come. So,
Well, Dave,
Peter,
let me ask you this: if everybody's talking about that rule, right?
Right.
But if you're going to go by a rule, shouldn't you go by the whole rule instead of just half of it the way it's written?
All right. So you let me just assume that you're saying, or are you trying to say apply all IGFA rules to a tournament?
No, that one rule, because that one rule clearly states the mutilation rule is in effect if it's a potential world record fish. That was the gray area, and that's what I think Ashley was talking about today.
I think it's the definition of what a mutilated fish is. I understand the premise behind what the rule is. The rule is so that you don't hook into a fish and winch it to the top after it's been bitten in half by a shark and you really didn't fight it. Here's what I think happened on that fish. I think they tail wrapped that fish on a dive. It died. I think they were reeling in a dead fish anyway. When it got bit by the shark, who knows? But I think that's why it took them 6.5 hours.
That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened.
I think they were reeling a dead one. So whether it died by the tail wrapping the shark, who knows? It sucks either way. But yeah, I understand the point of the rules. I mean, it there's a reason for it. How
I understand the point of it. I'm talking about the whole definition of it. What he's saying is, if you're going to go by a rule, go by the whole rule. Don't just use half of that rule. Because IGFA says if you read that whole rule, that pertains to a potential world record.
Here's the thing. I am no saltwater captain. I have never fished a big rock. But from what I've read on it, and I've followed this stuff, just armchair fisherman here for a while, they kind of cherry pick which rules they use as far as IGA goes. And, you know, we're going to follow this, and we're going to have leaders that are this, and then, you want to pass the rod around the boat and let everybody get a hand at it for 20 minutes? You can do that too. So I think they kind of make it fit for the game that it is. It's a rich man's game, and it's a gentleman's, type of fishing. Probably not as much as the world record stuff, but really the IGFA stuff, that's even more haughty rich man's gentleman's fishing. But yeah, it is what it is. And listen, everybody says, I got people that I know down there that are calling me like, oh yeah, captains aren't going to enter next year. They had what, 260 boats this year. They'll have 300 next year. This is going to create, it's going to create a lot of drama. People love this shit. I don't care what they say. This is the best thing since 2010. And you know, it's good publicity. It's good press. So I'm glad I didn't stay up for it, because that close to staying up to see that fish come in. I'm glad I did.
You know, I stayed up for it, and I had to be up at 3:30 a.m. for a flight. Yeah, it was a little rough.
Well, what they say, any press is good press, right?
Absolutely, especially in that, because this is bringing it to people who are not fishermen. And anytime it starts to transcend the fishing world and starts to show up on, you know, Good Morning America's news feed and TMZ's news feed,
Fox in the morning.
Yeah, that's publicity. I mean, you don't want it to happen, but you're not exactly sad when it does happen. So it's interesting, and it'll happen again. There'll be something similar again. So, you know.
Do you think they want to do away with that rule?
What's that?
No.
I don't know that business enough to know how much of a problem it actually is. I don't know how many people would actually attempt to back down over fish to cut it with a prop so they could kill it and get it in a boat. About how many of them actually get bit by sharks and they're bringing in dead ones. So I don't know how much of an issue that actual rule is.
This is the third issue they've had with that rule, or is it second or third issue within 3 years, John?
I couldn't tell you the exact number.
I
do know there are boats that have, you know, they won't weigh the fish if it's shark bit, right?
Yeah, I know there was one a couple of years ago, wasn't there, that was brought in that was they had to tow outside the boat. They couldn't get, and I think it got shark bit, but they determined that it was bit after the fish was killed. They got video of all these landings. I mean, don't they video everything so they can determine whether or not they're getting a leader touch and all that? So I think you could probably tell if the fish is coming in dead or whatever. So
yeah, and I think that's the other point too, is, you know, the Big Rock has all the footage. They're the ones that
and it becomes property. If you read the rules, it becomes property of the Big Rock tournament once you turn in your little SD card. So it'll be hidden away forever somewhere.
Yeah.
How much does a captain make fishing one of those? You probably know that, John. How much do they pay a captain to run a boat?
A buddy of mine,
20% is the typical cut.
A buddy of mine fished bill collector, and I think so when you charter a boat, they make you enter every level, 42 grand. These guys also fished KWLA, so they had to pay that entry as well. And John told me that I think it was 30%, 35. I do know I've seen some, you know, that say that they'll take you out and it's $3 grand and you got to pay fuel or whatever. And they take 40%. And then the mates are making 10%. So
about that entry fee, that's something I wasn't clear on. Mm-hmm. It's 20 to do those first big 5. And then the other stuff is addition to that. Is that right? Because you said it's around 40 to do across the board.
Yeah, I think it's 42,000 if you do all levels. But again, you can get in for it. It's like me. I'm a poor man that fishes the tournament. I spent the $2,500 to enter it. I mean, they put on.
How many charters is that for you to run to make that, you know, entry fee? Was it like 5 or 6? You're so popular.
1, 2, 3, 4.
About 10 years worth at least, right? Yeah.
Damn, I might have to do at least 6 or 7 HVAC installs to enter.
Only, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But no, from what I hear, those guys, they throw that card down to pay that while they're drinking martinis and could care less.
Some of that shit's sponsored too. I mean, you know.
What are all these guys doing for a fucking living is what I want to know.
HVAC
commercial construction.
Exactly.
All these guys are business owners. So like one guy owns Waste Industries. I mean, these guys aren't poor. And then, but there are some people like me that it's like, yeah, I'm using it as a write-off for my company. I'm only doing, you know, $3,500 in entry fees, which isn't 42,000. I could never afford that. But
you gonna be able to pay the entry fee of the U.S. Open and have it a write-off?
I mean, I can. We can talk about it.
Let's do it.
Hey, now,
Or only if we do longest Peter.
Winner.
No.
No, I was kidding.
now Ashley said something about there were so many people that got a cut. There's like 24 of those people. So many people fished this day. So many people fished this day. So I don't know, what did they do? Did they charter his boat to enter the tournament? I don't
I think
understand what he was.
he sells slots per day. Is
Okay.
what, to my knowledge, it is.
Yep.
And so each
But
person gets a cut.
don't some of the captains get hired on to other boats to run a Jarrett Bay boat or whatever? Doesn't it work that way too?
Yep.
John shaking his head. Cool. That's
Yeah.
what I thought. I thought
But I
some
know,
were
like,
hired, yeah.
like let's take Bill Collector. And the only reason I say that's because I know someone that chartered it. You know, you have to book them a year in advance. They had booked them last year. I can't remember who they fished with for 3 years, and they didn't do anything. So this guy was spending these group of guys were spending $42,000 plus a week hotel plus fuel. You know, you're talking $70,000, $75,000 that, you know, 6-7 guys are spending or splitting, and not to catch anything for 3 years. So they hired Bill Collector. I think they got the first release Blue Marlin for 38 grand. So they did get a little bit of money back this year. But yeah, I mean, on theirs, I think the captain took 35%. So that comes first before anything, before entry fees or anything like that are paid.
Yeah.
Now, what's the most expensive boat in that tournament? Jordan's?
I think there is a Real Development is a super nice boat. There is a 101 foot Viking, I think, or 92, something like that. Iron Leader is another one that's super nice.
I better start working some more overtime.
Yeah, I mean, those boats are, and you know, some of those boats have 1,800 gallon diesel tanks. You know, the guide, or I call them guides, the charter boats have typically 300 gallons, something like that, and that's what they're talking about. Predator that boated on Thursday, one of the roughest days. Their charter boat, they only had 300 gallons of fuel. They went to Hatteras and they had to run the ditch back and stop at Jarrett Bay to refuel so they could make it.
I've actually fished the Predator once on my bachelor party.
And it was funny because the rules state you can't exit the boat and no one can enter your boat. So Randy had came over the radio and was like, just FYI, I'd have to make sure everyone's clear on the rules. When you refuel that boat, no one is to step on your boat. So they passed, you know, diesel handle to them, and because that would have DQ'd them. But
What's that? What's the purpose in that?
So in the rules, it's like, you know, hook and line tournament, and no one can, no other boat or no one else can step on your vessel to help land a fish. No other boat can step on your boat, or you're automatically disqualified.
It's like in the pro bass tournaments, the guys can't leave the boat except for an emergency.
Yeah.
1 foot in, right? Is what the bass tournaments say. There must be 1 foot in all times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lane says, look up real displace, real
development.
Real development.
No, there's a
so we talk about these rules about, you know, this whole fish mutilation thing. You know, I mean, rules are meant to be broken, kind of, sort of. You know, I'll give you an example here. You know, one thing that really pisses me off in the tournament world is live release tournaments. I want to bring this up. You know, I've fished tournaments where you bring fish alive and it is a live release tournament. Now, there's no way that fish swimming off alive. You know, you dump them in, belly up, dead. But yet you get credit for the fish being weighed in because it showed up alive. Now, same situation here. I mean, it's small little shark bites. I mean, there's got to be some leeway, you know? I've seen tournaments also where people weighing fish alive and give the fish alive to someone else to keep and eat. You know, I mean, if there's got to be a set rule, it must be followed at all times. You know, there's no, you know, I'm kind of contradicting myself here a little bit there, but I mean, there's got to be some leeway in some of these rules overall.
I don't know if you
That's
guys
a big boat.
wow.
Oh, it's huge.
Holy
I got
shit.
I got a video of it going out, but look at the inside, man. This is, I mean,
2,600 horsepower.
you know, I'm in a center console. I mean, literally, I took a shower to get dry with foul weather gear, and these guys are, you know, sipping martinis on the way back in.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Lifestyles of the rich and famous.
I don't know if it has the boat build on it or what it called. There's instruction.
Hey,
Uh,
$12 million.
They have a whole crew hired. All they do is show up and jump in the boat and fish all day and jump off, and someone cleans the whole boat for them and repeat for the next couple of days, huh?
12. Think about this: $12 stinking million, dude. 12 million.
Actually, on the way out on day one, Real Development was passing us. So, I mean, there's that boat next to us. The thing is crazy, man.
I mean, you really want to see them lose. I mean, let's be honest. You really want to see them lose. You
They don't
want to
need
see
that
them have a
3
good
point
day.
whatever million, right?
Oh,
Well,
and I
there's
did.
an old saying: the fish don't know what kind of boat you're in.
True.
So I also had a friend that was on one of the boats that hooked up first, Sea Toy. This was one of their Blue Marlin. I mean, this is crazy. This is
Wow.
It's from
Dang.
the Fly Bridge.
Could you imagine that from a kayak?
Oh,
I mean,
JR,
it happened.
I think those big flatheads fight like that. They jump.
I'm pretty sure. Well, a gar has been known to jump.
I say, yeah, you might as well fish for a gar. Same shit, right?
I know, right?
Actually, funny story. Guy trip 2 days ago. We had a gar and I went to net it and it came up and it almost got a bite in my face. That scared the crap out of me. That was a mistake. So those things are fun.
Jumped out of the water.
Scott Perry said he couldn't pay the light bill on that boat.
John's like, jumped out of the water.
Scott does have like a mini freaking Viking, this aluminum Viking, right?
It's,
No, it's river.
1/5 of the size. I'd love a sport fish. I obviously don't have the money for one, but I also look.
Yes, you do. You could get a 35-foot Bertram for like $100,000 in good shape.
Away from a Bertram, but yeah, I just looked up the maintenance on one because I was like, if you got a couple buddies that went in and y'all split it, used one, and everybody was paying $1,000 a month or whatever on it. The maintenance on one is like $25,000 a year, not including the fuel that you go out. That's the slip, getting it scraped by a scuba diver, getting it repainted every 2 years.
That's all stuff that you can do yourself, though.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
All the time that I have.
That's great.
Let me go down there with my hoist and
damn, JR figured it out again. God, nobody thought of that.
JR.
Hey, what can
Keep them off the internet.
Listen, you're talking about a motherfucker. I won't even clean fish. I'll pay somebody to clean my fish.
Guys,
Damn right you will.
this episode is
I don't know about
this episode is sponsored. We have to watch our language. It's sponsored
By who?
by GoPro. By BO Outdoors.
All the videos I've heard people cussing in GoPro videos. Come on, man.
Oh,
Hey,
take that GoPro.
I pay people to clean fish. I wish I would put a damn scuba
Look at
suit
that Blue
on
Marlin on that BO.
and try to get up under a damn boat and start scraping that son of a bitch.
I'm starting to begin to think that the reason why Wes don't ever really keep fish is because he don't know how to clean them. Gotta hire someone.
Oh, I know how to clean them, brother.
Hell no, you gotta hire
to.
someone to clean one fucking wide.
I just don't want to.
Come on.
So how did the
Hey, Wes,
biologist
hang on.
determine that the fish was bitten before it was boated? How did
All right, hang on. Before
any
that
ideas on that? Anybody?
I have to ask Wes, do you buy pre-rigged ballyhoo or do you do them yourself?
No,
Oh my
reckon
God, he rigs it himself.
Let's backtrack.
Don't blow
Let's
his head
backtrack,
up,
let's
John.
backtrack.
I always bought the pre-rigged. Wes actually rigs them.
Wes used to buy pre-rigged until you learn
I've
how to
never
rig.
bought a pre-rig ballyhoo in my life. I'd never fished like that till I fished with you.
You know what? Actually, I do remember Wes asking me. He's like, you know what? Should I buy these pre-rigged ones? I'm like, you better not fucking buy any pre-rigged ballyhoo because they won't catch shit for you. He's like, oh yeah. So that's when you learn how to rig
That
ballyhoo.
explains a lot.
All right, back to the biologist. JR, I don't think we know how they determine other than teeth marks in the fish.
It's got to do with the whole heel wound thing. I talked to a guy about it today, but it's one of those things. Did that shark get bit an hour before it was
An
caught?
hour before, right?
That
Yeah.
wound may look just the same. Now they did say the odds of that happening aren't real good, but here's the question I had, and I asked some people this, and I got somewhat of the same answer with some variation. On a big giant 130, how long is it supposed to take to bring in a 600-pound marlin?
Well,
Less than 2 hours.
it was. First of all, it
alive,
wasn't a 130.
alive.
It was
It
an
wasn't.
80.
It wasn't.
It was an 80 wide.
Okay.
They said less than 2 hours that fish should have been at the boat.
That's what I've heard. I've heard maybe some extenuating circumstances if you're really trying to fish a little more sporty line, but they said nobody does that in that tournament. They're trying to catch the fish and kill them, and they're not really trying to do anything record class or keeping it fun. They want to catch and kill them. So that's what I heard too. That's what really made me think that fish was dead. So
They're
when
pulling
it
dead
died,
bait.
that's the good question.
But now there again, I think one of y'all just mentioned this, and Pete, I don't know if it was you that said it. Could that fish, and just hypothetically speaking, I don't know, what if that fish was bit sometime Thursday or sometime Friday? It wouldn't actually bit during the fight. How could they prove that? Or can they? Can they tell?
Wes, a blue marlin can travel at 50 mile an hour. I don't think a shark is I think the odd, like Dieter said, the odds of that happening are slim.
I can only think of like 3 or 4 sharks that can actually like take a good chunk out of a marlin.
A tiger would be one of them.
Mako, great white, tiger, and that's really
maybe a bull shark.
Maybe a big bull shark, but I feel like they wouldn't even try to mess with the marlin at all.
Yeah.
So chances of that is very slim and none. Now, those 3 sharks I named obviously are pretty large, so if they're going to bite a live marlin, they're going to bite like the whole damn tail off or something,
Yeah.
So there's no doubt in my mind like this small little pissant shark took a bite at this fish while it was dead on the bottom, or should I say down, being winched up off the depths there.
I didn't see any real good pictures of the bite, but I honestly don't think that fish died from the shark bite.
No.
Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't think it died from the shark bite.
No way. But they did say that it bled out. I think I read something that it bled out.
Yeah. I'd love to see the video. I'd love to see the cockpit video.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it have to be? It had to be a pretty deep bite for it to be bleed out, wouldn't it? I meant.
At the right place, it would not need to. Like the back of the tail, or like the gill plate, obviously, or the throat, or certain places in the fish. If you use nick it, it'll bleed out. So not necessarily true, but at the same time, the bite marks I saw, they just weren't deep flesh wounds.
No.
Now, what do they consider mutilation? A scratch? Or if it just say it goes in the skin a half an inch, or the skin?
You're asking the question that everyone, like several thousand people, want the answer to, because we can't tell you.
You can see the flesh. I mean, in that picture, you can see the flesh. So to me, and I hate it. Like I said, I think everyone in Moorhead was rooting for sensation.
But there again, is that really mutilation? Because you can see some flesh.
So
I think they define it as penetrating the flesh, and I think if it's not caused by a shark or a propeller, and it's caused by leader or any other method of bringing the fish in, snooter rub, whatever, they don't disqualify it. But if it is from a mammal, I mean, as it states, mammal or prop, or they run over it, I mean, they DQ it.
Well, shark's not a mammal, though, right?
Is there anything else out there that could do that other than a shark?
A dolphin, but they wouldn't fool the marlin.
I don't think the dolphin's going after that marlin.
No,
Killer whale could. But I mean, the chance of seeing an orca off the Atlantic coast isn't good, not impossible, but an orca could do it.
Yeah.
Orcas have been pissed off lately. They've been attacking those boats over in England, somewhere over in Europe, and punching holes in them. They're pissed off right now. They're tired of that SeaWorld crap that's been going on for decades.
So I had to look up. A Mako shark can swim 31 miles per hour. He's been clocked going on the highway. What was the other shark that you said?
Tiger shark.
Tigers are
They're
slow.
not fast. They're,
They're
slow. Yeah.
slow. They're
20
slow.
mile an hour.
But I mean, a tiger would take a chunk out of one that's, you know, in a good opportunity, maybe like a dead one, maybe, you know, but not nibble a small little bite
Hey,
out of it, you know.
Hey, Dieter, I have a proposition for you.
Oh God.
Okay, so Tony Caton sent Wes and I 3 Hellcat rods like a year ago. And we told him that we'd catch tiger shark out of the tower on these Hellcat rods. Okay. And I was going to bring my drone and get some, we was going to get the tiger boat side and get some drone footage of it. Well, some things happened and we weren't able to make that
Mainly
video.
weather.
Okay. So we, I like to, you know, whether it takes a year or 5 years or however, I like to come through on my obligations. So you should go with Wes and I and give me a break and make a video on Hellcat catching a tiger shark for Catch the Fever brand.
What kind of boat are we going in? That's my
We'll
first.
be on Wes. We'll be on Wes's boat.
A Sea Arc.
It's an
No.
18-foot Sea Pro.
No,
Okay.
Wes is a very.
Just kidding.
Tell him. Wes got a sea chaser. Tell him what you got, Wes.
I got a
I knew
20
it. I knew it had sea in it. That's what worries me. Anytime I hear sea, I start cringing.
No, I got a 24-foot sea chaser. It's an
Okay.
offshore boat.
Okay.
It's more
So-
seaworthy than Peter's boat.
Shit, you crazy as fuck. So, confession, guess who's shooting video this weekend with Catch the Fever?
Peter Malik, or as my
Nice.
friends call you, Peter Malachi. I'm like, his
Whatever
name's
it
not
is.
Peter Malachi.
Hey,
We're shooting
are,
video this weekend.
are you using the slime line?
Yes, actually. I like it. I like
What
it.
kind of
like
video are we doing,
Yeah.
Pete?
What's that?
Stripe. What kind of video are we doing?
Whatever the weather allows us to do offshore.
Okay, cool.
They want something that will bend the rod.
Nice.
Amberjack, cobia, king. Yep.
So you're going to be featured on the front of the webpage?
I have no idea. It's Shane and was it Tony? I guess their video guy. Who's their video guy? The one that's dedicated to shoot video usually. It's not Caleb. Caleb can't come.
Yeah.
But one of those guys they're jumping on with us.
Hey, I'm gonna try to. Hey, Dieter, I'm gonna see if I can put a video. You might can see my boat in this. I don't know. Let's see.
You're listening to the Real Fisherman Podcast. Be sure to like and follow on Facebook and be sure to share it with a buddy.
You need some help?
No.
You got it?
He's
Oh wait,
struggling.
so
Struggling.
you've got twins on it.
I do.
Struggling.
Oh, okay. I think we got
Doubles, baby. Wesley Rose. Woo! Got him.
He hit that so much like he stole something, didn't he? Yeah, he did.
Love it. Woo!
Oh.
Woo! Woo!
I come out west, heading west toward the channel. I'm just gonna try to get out there and fish the channel down while I was here, but hell, by the time I get out there, it's just brutal out here. I'm fixing to go put the boat on the trailer and I'm gonna head up to Morley's. It's this is the roughest I've ever been out here that I've been in since I've been coming over here.
Thanks for stopping by, guys. Make sure you hit that like button if you don't mind, and let's.
Someone fucking loves to see their own video, their own face.
All right, so I got a question for Pete and John.
Yeah, what you got?
How do you gauge wave
Really? I was
height?
wondering where you went.
We were down there last week, 2 weeks ago, and
Oh, probably from the storm.
we were
No,
in some
storm.
really big swells. They were like 12, 14 seconds apart, but they were huge, but there was
Well,
no
hey, get
wave.
on your phone.
They were just
You want
huge
to send me an
swells.
invite onto your phone?
And then it was like 2 days later, it was choppy in a washing
No,
machine,
come on back
a
on.
lot shorter, nowhere near as steep,
Just
but
get on your
it was
phone.
a hell of a lot
You want to
worse.
send me an invite?
How do you gauge waypoint
It's really
besides looking
hard.
at your sonar and watching how far the boat's going up and down in the sonar? Is that accurate?
I don't really have a gauge for it per se, but if I can't fucking stand the boat, it's just too damn rough. You know, if I can't stand my boat, it's about 4 to 5 at least.
Okay.
Dear, the best thing I like about my boat, I've never had a boat that's got them before. You know what a combing pad is, right?
No, tell me.
The thing that's it's pads inside your boat and inside the gunnel that you can lean on when you're fighting a fish. And that makes life so good, because I've been on so many boats that didn't have them, and you're trying to keep your balance, and especially in salt water, and lean out, and you're using your thighs up against solid fiberglass. I've actually had mine bruised before. So having combing pads on a boat is a big plus, especially.
Does that make it easier to pee off the side of the boat when you got
damn right it
lean
does.
Just wondering.
Unless you're like John Longest, you can stand in the middle of the boat and piss off of it. It really doesn't get anyway.
Listen, I was so wet Friday night coming back in. It didn't matter. It was like, you know, we weren't stopping to pee, and it was so rough. I was just like, man, it's 9:30 and let it fly. But Scott did, and he asked a serious question. I think it's the first one he's ever asked at 9:33. Do they release everything that's smaller than the leaders? What's the deal with them saying this team released a marlin? So to answer that question, the blue marlin has to be 110 inches or over 400 pounds, or otherwise you get penalized. And there is a chart that they give you before you go out, you know, at the captain's meeting, and 110-inch fish with a 60-inch girth is 412 pounds is the average. So they were saying, you know, I don't know if anybody was watching the feed when Sensation was coming back in, but apparently someone from the boat had texted back via satellite that it was a 140-inch fish, and it was, you know, 900 pounds and all this stuff. And I think that was the other thing. I never saw the measurement on it, on what it was, but I think, and I don't know how much.
In the podcast, they said it was 122 today.
122. Okay.
122.
Yeah. So they knew. If you look at the chart, what's that?
Oh, I'm sorry, John.
No, they knew if you look at that chart, like it goes up, I think, in 2-inch increments, and it tells you, and I think at 120 or 118, something like that, it breaks the 500-pound mark. So they knew.
In the podcast, I think I remember him quoting saying they had measured at 122 and whatever the girth was. And at that moment, they said they knew they had one over 600.
Yeah.
Now,
So
what's the world record marlin? 800 and something?
Over 1,000, man. Like
12 something, I believe.
Yeah.
I think the biggest one caught in the tournament was the one that was mutilated on the way back in. Right? Yeah. 916 pounds or whatever it was. Yeah. Top dog.
Yeah.
So how many of those guys fishing that tournament are hardcore serious, and how many of them are there for the party?
I mean, I consider myself a hardcore fisherman. You know, I'm swapping baits, and I'm constantly like, I think I drank maybe 4 beers in a day, you know, like just I was more focused on the lines and, you know, being safe in those rough waters. But
you're allowed to drink in that tournament? I thought you weren't allowed to drink in case you had to take a lie detector.
No, you can drink in that tournament.
Well, Ashley
they wouldn't have it if you couldn't drink. I think that would.
Well, Ashley said he had to tell one of his crew that when they were popping champagne coming in, he said, "Ho, he said, don't drink none of that."
It was at that moment right there. They called him in that night for the polygraph.
Okay. What I'm saying is, if you drink a couple of beers and you go in and you got a big fish and they want to give you a polygraph, I mean, I don't know. I'm just asking because I heard Ashley tell his mate. He said, "Wait a minute." He said he had some champagne from another excursion, and they shook it up. He said he sprayed the crowd with it, and he went to turn it up and took a little shot of it. He said, "Whoa, stop!" He said, "You know, we may have to take a polygraph, and you won't be able to take it if you got alcohol on it."
Yeah, there's nothing in the rule book about alcohol or drugs. I know, like a Striped Bass Challenge does have. They enforce that rule: no alcohol or drugs, and then the lie detector test, which I've never taken.
They never give exactly.
But, they say, you know, did you break any of the tournament rules? Which apparently that's one of them. But no, everyone out there drinks. But to answer your question, I'd say probably 60-70% go for the party. I mean, they put on a pretty good event. You know, the captain's
Yeah.
party. It's it used
And
to. Be
I feel sure that the mates and probably the captain are serious. And I guess what I'm talking more about is the other 20 guys. Well, it ain't that many, but the huge crowd that's on the boat that probably doesn't know what the hell they're doing anyway, and they're more in the way than they are anything.
A lot of these king tournaments, like the U.S. Open, for example, I'll say it's about 60-40, maybe. 60% are serious guys, and the 40% are the ones throwing the fucking 3-foot Walmart nets trying to catch pogies. You just can't do it. It's kind of laughable, actually, but yeah.
Yeah, but no, they put on a great event. I mean, you know, it's all you get 6 wristbands when you enter, and that gives you unlimited drinks. I mean, open bar all week at the tournament. Captain's dinner. You know, they've got sushi. I mean, it's high end stuff. But
it's like the super bougie of saltwater fishing.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Anything with the word marlin attached to it is super bougie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and they give you, you know, when you go and like me as the captain, I went and picked up the stuff. I mean, you probably have $600 worth of gear that they give you. I know last year I got a Grunin's dry bag. I think it was like a $225 dry bag backpack. They give you a bunch of tumblers, like nice Yeti tumblers. They give you some nice stuff. A bunch of free shirts, gear. And then there's a bunch of bullshit.
Scott Perry, you want to fish U.S. Open with me? I'm telling you what, that's going to cost you $400 a day.
Scott wants to know if he could do it and fish from the beach. Maybe from the pier.
Scott can fish with me, but it'll cost him $400. He gets it. It's an inside joke.
from Wes.
I know. I'm like, what the fuck are these guys all they talking about? How much money fuel is? I mean, you know, fuck, my boat's got a 145-gallon tank on it. $400 ain't even gonna get close to filling my boat up. Much less going out 80 miles one way, trolling 25 or 30 miles, and coming back another 80 miles. $400 is too much money. Set your ass on the bank on a bucket and kill some damn redworms. I mean,
that's right. That's right. Perry, damn Bolo's a damn money maker right now, buddy. You don't want damn paradise in this shit right now.
That's right. JR, where'd you go?
My internet went out. I don't know why I'm talking into this thing. I'm on my phone now, but yeah, my internet went out.
Scott said you were making a drink.
Yeah, he said
I'm out. 6. I'm out of everything.
He's out of internet. He's out of liquor.
Out of liquor, out of beer, out of internet.
Damn. Life is
and you want me to go out on a boat with you? You probably wouldn't put damn gas in the thing.
I only drink like every other Tuesday night.
I drink every other Tuesday.
But it's not Tuesday.
On this show, that's the only time I drink. And only reason I do this show is because Wes wants to. My buddy Wes, he's like, "We're gonna do the show." I'm like, "Yeah."
Just checking. It's Monday.
Dieter, you would be completely JR internet free if it weren't for Wes. I've retired.
Dieter, would you like to? We are planning on maybe. I think Pete said, I know, you know, Pete's got to have this certain fucking window to do everything. If Pete didn't have no windows, I'm
as bad as Pete. So don't start with me with windows. You can ask Pete. He's invited me to fish.
I know when to go out there to optimize my chances. I don't go there for fucking shits and giggles and drink beer, you know. But anyways,
we're thinking about doing an overnight trip in my boat.
On the ocean overnight?
Yeah.
Oh, dear God. Jesus.
Come on, Dieter. Man, that would be some amazing content.
Dieter, I've got VHF radio. I've got EPIRB. I've got radar on my boat.
Got everything we need. We're going to die safely.
Hey, at least we can see some shit coming. If it comes, I'll see it on the radar. Hey, we're fixing to fucking die.
Hey, we're going to get hit by one of those shipment cargo ships full of replica Air Jordans just coming to America.
Replica Air Jordans.
You imagine that shit.
Scott, some Alibaba specials.
Is that your 2-piece you want to give away?
Hey, Scott showed me that rod. He said he had 15-pound test on a Striper Stealth rod, and he was just trying to pop it, trying to get the hook loose, and it just snapped.
So I've had one snap on me way back when, but I do know like the very first batch
boy.
that was
Here
made
we go
when
with
they
the rod
first came out
snapping
were
stuff.
bad.
They
Yeah.
overbaked a bunch of them, the first ones. Yep.
Yeah, and that was one of the first batches.
Yeah.
Guys, we're talking graphite rods here, though, right? Are Striper Stealth rods graphite rod? Are they graphite heavy? Are they a composite rod?
They're Alibaba fiberglass.
So much for getting a new sponsor on here.
Hey, well, first of all, Pete, you say GD 100 times an episode.
I do.
Wes says MFer 100 times an episode. So
And you say bitch.
what sponsors are you guys wanting to get on here?
Like Bernie Mac said, listen, let's define the word
Hey.
motherfucker.
I want that damn Woodford sponsor. Okay, come on.
Listen, no, but what? Do you realize how many times that you can use motherfucker in one sentence?
That's why you guys are my co-hosts, because I ain't want no sponsors. 'Cause this ain't no business. Ain't that right, dude?
Exactly.
You gotta do it because you love it. Hey, you're right. You do it because I love it.
I am not slurring my words. Come on now.
Not much. Not bad. Not bad. Not slurring, dragging is a better description of what you're doing. So.
Well, I mean, we have to look out for our audience.
Scott Perry said we could get Pornhub to sponsor us and put up long as Peter.
Where did John go? Is he out? Oh, there's John. Okay.
John's here.
I'm on my phone now. I can't see everybody.
John,
Took
can't you
glasses
see? John, I know you're kind of bougie. Can't you see? Hey, can't you see? Can't you see yourself up in Tennessee with us country motherfuckers up on some up on a river? Listen, me and Shane Howington was up on the up on Chilhowie one night. Now this is how country this place is. These fucking hillbillies won't buy a motel, but they'll damn sure take a girl to the boat ramp in a minute. We were sitting up there cut baiting, and we watched 3 different times. We had lights out. I didn't have no bait light. I didn't have no lights on the boat whatsoever. No foot, and it was dark. It wasn't even like a quarter moon. It was dark as shit. And every now and then,
Yeah, and you're up in the mountains.
you know the boat ramp I'm talking about, don't you, JR? Right over there from my stump.
Yeah.
Truck pulls in, and what's the only way we can see it because he left his light on. He opens his door. Girl gets out on the other side, walks around, gets on her knees, and gives him a hummer. Right there at the boat ramp. Boom, they leave. About an hour later, another car, I couldn't tell what kind of car it was. This guy pulls in there. He gets out, she gets out. He leaves his door open. You can see his ass in the back seat. He's knocking the bottom.
Hey, Tennessee is beautiful, but it's full of meth heads and stuff like
Exactly.
that, just like any other town.
I can
I
see
have
it.
I have some standards now.
We could take John. John would last about a half a day up in Tennessee with us, boy. He'd be ready to get back to North Carolina quick.
Oh man, he would love it. John, you got to go with us on the Tennessee trip.
We can
You
do
don't catfish though, so you know.
No, I don't.
No,
We're not talking about catfish. We're talking about striper.
Shit, I ain't seen you catch no damn striper, JR. Without Wes, at least.
Well,
Without
go
Wes.
deeper in my Facebook pictures. Go deeper. You'll find some striper pictures in there.
All right,
way
all right.
on down.
He likes that dead weight.
No, he looks damn wet dish rags, huh?
Well, you hear what they're saying? You hear how they talk about our catfish, Dieter?
Let them talk. Let them talk.
Yeah.
I'll keep taking
Let
the
them
video,
talk. I
man.
know.
I'll keep taking
You
the
might as
video,
well paint a big deal on that flathead. You got in the background.
I remember putting Dieter on his first king. He's like, man, that is the best fighting fish I've ever felt in my life.
Dieter,
It
has
was
Matthew
until
Miles
it died.
contacted you about
Until it died.
copyright royalties on your neon flathead back there?
On what now?
I said, has Matthew Miles
Okay.
contacted you about your neon catfish back there? It looks like a direct copy of his catfish with a K logo.
Considering the current owner of the brand paid for it, I guess I can put whatever. I
Oh,
want.
really? Oh, okay. Dang, burn.
Hey, here's your catfish.
That was like a tag.
I don't know. It's been there a while though.
That's a zip tie.
Yeah.
Who's losing signal?
Catfish.
Dieter?
Redneck tagging program.
Y'all, I got one of those catfish things also. I'm gonna hang them right here.
Uh-oh.
That'll be good.
Fucking rag.
Is he hanging a wet towel?
Yep.
Wet towel.
That's my catfish back there.
Hey, I will tell you this, Peter. The thing that was fun to catch, we got into the big bull reds down at Winyah Bay last week, or the week before last. Those things, 25, 35 pound fish, those were some ass kickers. That was
44 inches, give or take, right?
Yeah, were Grayson caught one of the biggest ones. And the funny thing was, we were going shark fishing. So I took my net off the boat. So here I am in 1.5 hour current going through there trying to stick a damn boga grip in this fish's mouth. So yeah, it was fun.
Nice.
So,
Gator, do you realize how many tarpon you probably run over in there?
Especially in that current. Everybody's going bye-bye. Where'd they go? You're back. Okay.
Do you realize how many tarpon are in that backwater in Winyah Bay? Did y'all see any tarpon?
Where'd JR go? Did he get a liquor store?
Probably.
Gator.
I'm still here. Y'all still here?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You there?
Yes.
How many tarpon did you see? You know that Winyah Bay this time of year, all that backwater.
I'm here.
In the Santee Delta, it's full of tarpon.
I didn't see any tarpon. I heard it's another month before they start seeing them and catching them. I don't know if that's true or not.
They were there this time last year.
Like mid-July, late July, August, a little bit further down. So,
Scott, what's so funny? Here, your internet might be going out. It's kind of
reds eat
choppy.
good. Well, what's crazy, saltwater. You're talking about turning Dieter onto King. A 10-pound saltwater striper pulls just as hard as a 25-pound, 41-inch landlocked striper. It's just crazy.
I don't believe that.
They do.
I've caught fish.
I'd say stripers
with striped bass.
They do. The saltwater fish, the saltwater stripers just hammer it.
I'll say stripers.
That's
fight more than others.
Striper.
Yeah, striper from different lakes definitely fight better. Like, the striper from Cherokee, them sons of bitches fought hard. I ain't gonna lie. They were probably some of the harder fighting fish that striped fish, at least, that I've caught in freshwater than anywhere else, honestly.
John, those fish in Tennessee, their average, they stay in anywhere from 54, 55 to 65 degree water year round. I've been up at Chilhowie when it's 100 degrees outside and the water is 60 degrees, 58 degrees. Those fish are never stressed. Those fish are as strong as they are in saltwater.
I don't believe that. I've pulled up some fish that swear
I fished up there,
little 20-inch striped bass, and it feels like
listen, I fished up there for 7 years. It's believable.
Don't matter where you go. I can't point to it yet. There it is.
That's the best
catfish.
Striper fishery in the world.
Catfish, they fight the same no matter.
I definitely think stripers are the hardest fighting freshwater fish. I mean,
if you want to get technical, get one of those 50-pound striper up there at about 5 or 6 mile an hour current. You better have some good stuff with you.
Never caught anything.
Drown the fucking kingfish. A striper up there drowned the kingfish and his fucking daddy just to show him he could do it.
I'm comparing landlocked striper to saltwater striper. Saltwater striper fight, I would say 3 times harder.
I don't know.
I think a 10-pound saltwater striper fights just as hard as a 25-pound landlocked striper.
No, I don't think so.
I think so.
It
has fooled me when I pulled it up. I'm like, this has to be a 20-pound striper, and it's like 10 pounds.
Well, hold on. I got some pictures I can show you now.
Oh boy, he's gonna harass us.
Are you going Chesapeake Bay?
I have a video now.
I don't know if let's see.
Wes, to answer your question, I do want to go fishing with you sometime because I think you've got a good story that I would love to hear. So at some point, I want to get you on the boat. The confessional of the boat.
Not a Cherokee striper.
Hell.
John,
that's not a
that
Cherokee
fish
striper.
Right there, that fish right there was almost 60 pounds, and I got a better fight out of a 50-pound freshwater striper. That fish right there was 55 pounds. That fish right there was 47 pounds.
never caught one that big, so I couldn't tell you the difference. Biggest one I caught was on Smith Mountain, 25, 24 pounds, something like that.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're gonna go with Pete Kingfish, why don't you go to Chesapeake Bay with me this year?
Let's do it.
That's the deal. Because I've been going
Is
every
it
year.
Is it $400 in fuel?
No, actually, honestly, depending on the Airbnb I get, you can go up there and fish 5 days for $700-800.
Yeah.
Wes, when are you going? What's the time frame?
Chesapeake Bay.
Yeah.
Dieter, I usually try to hit it there again. It varies on the water temperature, but we usually try to hit it. I only went one trip this year, but I usually try to get it about the second week of December. Then I'll stay for a week. I'll stay for a week. I'll come home for Christmas. Then I go back. And now those fish stayed up there till the end of January this year. There was days that Clinton Lasardium and Chuck Timon were catching 15 and 16 and 17 fish a day.
Yeah,
please keep me in mind when you do that. Please keep me in mind when you do that. I'd love to try to get up there.
When you
this is JR.
You've been talking a couple of years. You've been wanting to go, but you know,
that's this past year.
December's a good time. I like that. That's nice. Ooh.
Yeah, I've always heard the week of Christmas, the first week in January for Chesapeake Bay.
That's my favorite fish
Never
right
made
there.
that
That's the biggest fish I've ever caught, striper.
Now, do they prefer chicken breasts or will they eat the thighs?
No, they like eels. We use American black eels.
Yeah, I've seen those guys eel fish. That looks like that's cool stuff.
That's all you needed, John, was chicken breast. You could have won that $3.7 million.
We tried to catch a shark a couple of weeks ago on some chicken, but it didn't work out. So that was the whole video I was trying to do.
You know, when I took my boat down to a little river, I remember that night I was in the motel room and I Googled, Dieter, I think I told you this story. I Googled shark fishing in North Myrtle Beach.
You told me that.
In Little Inlet, and the first 10 videos was like Dieter Milhorn. I said, I'll be damn, I didn't even know he saltwater fish.
Yeah, that was me.
You should run some shark charters. This big money and good money and quick money and easy money, you know. So.
I actually did a couple while I was down at my camper a couple weeks ago. Some people from the campground. So yeah, you don't have to stick them with much either. That's what's kind of cool. There's a lot of tourists that they catch a sharp nose and it's like, oh, this is cool. It's that braided line after. Oh yeah, man, it's great. They get to hold them. They get to poke them in the nose and everything. So yeah.
Or braided line going through a spinning rod. There ain't nothing like it, dude.
Oh yeah, it gets everybody excited. It's a nice, 45-pound stingray. They love it. They fight it for 10 minutes. Yeah, that's
JR,
good.
This is my favorite video. This was a wahoo. JR gaffed this fish for me, but the way you did the slow motion, watch the drag on this thing. I mean, this drag was getting it. It was so fast you couldn't even hear the clicker. I mean, he was getting it. And so JR redid it. Ed, you remember this video, JR? And you slowed it down. And you can hear the blade was like, it sounded insane going through the eye.
Got doubles, baby. Wesley Rose! Woo! He hit that so much like he stole something, didn't he? Yeah, man. Love it. Woo! Oh. Woo! Woo! Homeboy! AJ! AJ for days! Woo! Woo! Yeah! Scott Perry, where's your skunk at? Woo! Woo! Another one bites the dust, baby! Woo!
Aren't they just so precious together?
Woo! You take Dieter out there, let him make a video. You won't.
I'm not gonna have all them woos in there. Remember the rule. Remember the rule. You repeat something 3 times in a video. 3 woos, and you have to stop, move on.
3 woos and okay. All right. Well, see, I'm learning stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even if you had 3 big marlin, you'd move on.
What's that?
You'd move on even if you had 3 big marlin.
You have to, yeah.
There may be an exception for 800-pound blue marlin.
So I got to bring something up that I was told not to ever bring up.
Talking
about gaffing, JR gaffing, wahoo, whatever. I heard a story of someone misgaffing recently a big mahi, and the mahi went bye-bye. Can you fill us in on that, Wes?
No, that was actually, it was the mahi. Me and Kenny Moore went out last weekend, and we'd been trolling for, I don't know, maybe 2 hours. No, I'm sorry. Been trolling less than an hour. I heard that the mahi had moved in a little bit, few were left out there. So instead of going all the way to the ledge, I started trolling. I put some ballyhoo out in about 90 foot of water, and I'm still maybe 10 or 12 miles from the ledge. So we're trolling, and about an hour into trolling, boom, a rod goes off. And I told Kenny, I said, there he is. It's got to be a mahi in this depth of water. So he got the rod, and he fought to fish, and it was probably maybe a 20, 22-pound mahi. You know, I seen the side of him, of course, you know, before I missed him. But anyway, I put the gaff, and I told him, I got behind him, and he was in front of me, and he was pulling the fish. Well, about the time I went to hit that fish, I mean, this is like hitting a fucking lottery. That fish decides to jump. And when he did, the leader caught the tip of my gaff. You know, you're just going to gaff a fish that quick. And he just decided to jump. And on my gaff, it's almost like little blades. He's got 3 little blades on it, you know, before the tip. I didn't realize them son of a bitches were sharp as a razor. And that line got that much of that tip on that blade and popped the 80-pound leader.
Wow.
So
wow. That's some bad luck.
And then our last fish, I was pulling on a shotgun rod. I bought a pack of horse ballyhoo, and we'd used one of them, and I was on the second one. I mean, when I say that rod left there, it was on that's a Speedmaster 25. He dumped about 250 yards of line like it was nothing. Then Kenny got the rod. He was holding the rod. He got him for another maybe 100 yards of line. So I slowed the boat down to about 3 miles an hour. And so he's fighting the fish, and I'm getting the real rods in. Well, he fought that fish for probably 35 or 40 minutes. When he got into the port side of the boat, you know, it's hard, and it really is hard to judge size of fish while it's in the water. But this wahoo looked huge. Man, my heart was beating. I told him, I said, man, Kenny, this is a huge fucking wahoo for this time of year. You got money. And of course, I had to gaff still in the boat. That gaff wasn't going nowhere near that fish. That son of a bitch was out of breath. And he was probably, I'm guessing, maybe 15 or 20 feet. And so I told Kenny, I said, just bring him up easy. Well, as soon as Kenny let the rod down to pull back up, the fish made a hard right turn and went back under the boat and spit the fucking hook. So our 2 biggest fish of that day trolling, we lost both of them. But he still wound up with another wahoo, about 22, 23 pounds. And we caught the shit out of bottom fish. I think we wound up with some beeliners, a couple of grunts. We had 3 big trigger fish. I think we had about 7 or 8 amberjack. We got tired of catching them, so I had to move. I mean, yeah, but there again, everybody talks about amberjack. If you're just taking somebody out there to fish that just wants to catch fish, it's hard to beat an amberjack. It'll give you all you want. So,
yeah.
But me personally, I'm done with sharks, and I'm about done with amberjack. So
I thought you were on the shark kick there for a while.
Yeah, you were for a little bit. Talking about spinner sharks this, spinner sharks that. And
well, catch a few wahoo, you won't really think about sharks no more. I mean,
I think I just saw a tear run down JR's eye right there.
I digress.
No, spinner sharks.
We tried to tell him.
Dieter, like I told him, think about this. So a spinner shark. Everybody likes Jack Crevalles. They ain't worth a fuck for nothing. People like to catch them because they fight. A spinner shark, and my biggest tarpon is about 150 pounds. A spinner shark will do 5 times what a tarpon will do in the air. They're more acrobatical, and they call them spinner sharks. They'll actually jump and spin. And if I'm not mistaken, if you Google their speed, a spinner shark's faster than a a tarpon in the water. So why don't people like to catch spinner sharks? Because they're a shark, they've got that name in front of them.
Yeah,
if it was named any other thing other than a shark, it would be a fucking trophy game fish.
Yep. No,
Well,
you're right. But
some people meat fish though too. I mean, I'm not going to eat a shark. I know.
Oh, they're
Well,
good.
black tips are good.
Backstrap on them, but I don't eat shark.
Some of them's good, ain't they, Pete?
Black tips are good.
I'm not eating much shark to tell you if it's good or not, but I hear they're good.
I've eaten black tips. I've eaten the sharp nose. I've eaten bonnet heads. They're all fine. The problem is you got to kill them right away, and you got to bleed them and gut them and do it right there. So it's not like throwing them in a fish box and a bunch of ice. You got to deal with the mess of doing all that shit.
Exactly. So, and you got to make room for this dang 5-foot shark that's going to be in the fish box too. And it's
exactly. So yeah, it's kind of a little more of a pain in the butt to do it.
I got a little trivia for y'all.
Tarp.
Do you know how beeliner got its name?
How?
Did anybody know, Dieter?
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, they used to catch the beeliners, and it's really box liner. They would put the beeliners, which were supposedly at that time the low end of the food chain of the snappers. So they would put them on the outside of the box and put the good fish on the inside of the box to help insulate and keep the fish on the inside cooler first. If that makes any sense.
Interesting.
So that's how they got the name beeliner. They're a box line fish.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
I've learned something. I've learned something. There we go.
Interesting.
But anyway,
JR's about to fall asleep on key. He's about to house away from the
He's drunk. I know my first year.
He's like, where's the off button?
Yeah. Where's the leave broadcast?
It's a touch screen. It's a touch screen.
Where's the
He's drunk.
John, I really appreciate you coming on here with us tonight. I know you're tired. You had a long trip, getting done with that, but really appreciate you coming on.
No.
Dieter,
Invite.
it's always a pleasure to have you. And like I said,
thanks for sending me a note. That's perfect.
But y'all are more. And listen,
I was expecting y'all on Tuesday because don't y'all normally do Tuesday?
We just did a special tonight to talk about the Big Rock. And
that was smart. That was smart. It's topical.
Yeah, and I thought John was really going to have us some good footage of when that big marlin hit and all that good stuff. Yo, you never did show us that. Oh, you don't have it on your phone, do you?
I got everything on GoPro, and you text me at 6 p.m. and I worked all day. And yesterday, I'm telling you, I wanted to sleep, but I had to spend time with my kids. Father's Day.
John, I'm gonna tell you, you made a mistake. You gave Wes your number. You know what that means now? You're gonna get a phone call at 6:30 a.m., 6:40 a.m., 7:15 a.m. When you
he used to call me Facebook Messenger, and I'm like, I don't have Messenger on my phone, so I'd go back to my computer, and it'd be like,
and then you're gonna.
I got like 10 missed calls from Wes, or 2 missed calls from Wes, and I'm like, damn man, I don't have Messenger on my phone. Here's my number.
I can't forget. Well, you gave it to me. I just kept forgetting to put it in my phone, and then, if I get 200 calls a day, I can't remember which one's yours.
So John, I missed the first part. Did you fish like the outboard class that they've got in that? Okay, that's cool.
We did. Cool. Last year I fished my 24-foot boat. I thought I was going to be the smallest boat in the tournament. We were the second smallest. And then this year I had a buddy that offered up his 30-foot Wellcraft. So we obviously took that because 6 feet, and it did make a huge difference. And we still, center console is a wet ass no matter what.
Oh yeah,
right. But,
so let's say you catch a 400-pound fish. Do you have to strap it to the side of the boat to bring it in, or can you get that thing into the boat somehow?
So last year we actually brought pulleys and block and tackle. I'm not a rigger, person, but snap block and all that stuff. And we were going to tie it off to the T-top and try to get it in the boat. And if not, we're going to drag it back. But if we caught one, again, I had one marlin lure out the shotgun one day, and everything else, we were game fish.
I've heard of people breaking like T-tops trying to pull tuna and stuff into like some of the smaller boats and stuff, trying to winch it in and stuff. So yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah, I mean, I would have tried it for the money.
That'd have been a good problem to have to try to figure out. So
Yep. Well, the other thing is getting it back in, right? So, as rough as it is, like, let's say we did have a marlin or 60-pound dolphin, right? They close the game fish scales at 7. They will stay open for the marlin if you radio in. But that Friday we got back in at 11:30 and we left at 3. That's a long day traveling on rough water.
So they don't keep the scales open for like dolphin and all that other stuff. It's just marlin.
No, it says game fish scales close at 7. I think if you radio in by 4 and you have like something like basically, so a lot of people take a peanut 3-pounder just to get on the board, right? So last year I weighed I think it ended up being 15 pounds. Dolphin, we caught it at 12:30. And my uncle was like, "Hey, let's run back. It's going to take us 3 hours. We'll be one of the first ones, and you can at least get on the board," which was cool. My first tournament, and we were leading it for 30 minutes. So it's fun to see your name up there for 30 minutes. But
I would have blown that crap up on the internet.
Oh yeah,
I would have been all over the place. If I
it was exciting. I had a bunch of people I'd called back in once we got to the shoals, and I was like, "Man, we're gonna go to the scales." I was like, I need some people recording the footage for me. But no, it was fun. Just this year, I think we used bigger hooks and not having seasoned bait. And we only fished 3 days. And then 2, you have to look at it, out of the 271 boats, I'd say half of them didn't do anything. I mean, it was just that rough.
Just for my own knowledge, what's a bigger hook? What do you call bigger versus small?
We on my marlin rig we had an 11-aught.
Okay.
And then everything else was running a 9-aught, and you have to use non-offset,
inline circle hooks. Yeah.
Tournament circle hook. Which when we got stuck out there,
y'all use circle hooks pulling those baits. Y'all use circle hooks pulling baits.
You have to.
Really?
Yep. So it was funny because on the way back in, it was about 6-7 o'clock, and I was like, "Y'all, we're not gonna get DQ'd." I was like, "Cut one of those." I think we had a squid chain because we were trolling 7, or we were going 10 mile an hour on the way back. I was like, "Throw one of the squid chains out there." We had like 2 or 3 ballyhoo left. Like, throw one of the squid chains out there and put a J hook on. Let's at least try to meet fish, while we were in 400, 350 feet of water, and we still didn't catch anything. I mean, it was just rough.
You mean you have to use a circle hook for a fish that you're going in to kill anyway?
What's that?
You have to use a circle hook for a fish that you're going in to kill anyway.
Yeah, you can't use a J hook. The only time you can use a J hook or any other type of non-offset circle hook is if you have artificial with no live bait or dead bait on it. So, if you have I think we had a couple of wahoo lures, deep diving lures. Those can have trebles and J hooks or whatever.
All right, let me ask y'all one more dumb novice question. Okay, when you're trying to figure out where to start, because that's a big damn ocean, what do you look for or where to start? Are you looking like temperature, break data, satellite stuff? Is that what is kind of the starting point?
So I look for temperature, and then I have
a good radar that picks up other boats.
So yeah, I mean, I can see in my boat, I can see depending on the wave height, right? So like if the waves are rolling, I mean, you really don't see, you'll see it pop up for a second and then you lose it. We did see other boats, but we were so slow. I mean, we left at 4:30 in the morning. We were getting out there 30 minutes till lines in, and those boats have been out there an hour looking for weed lines. We look for weed lines, temperature. I did. So I have the Garmin maps, and I had marked a few spots, and they're kind of crazy. But I look for,
I'm gonna screenshot them,
structure, stuff like that. You can't see any coordinates, but no. So, and this is where we were. So there's Hatteras right there. We were, I don't know if you can see that. That's the Hatteras tip. We were somewhere out. We were a little bit closer to Ocracoke, but we were somewhere out in here. I think when I put it in, it was like 82 miles from Cape Lookout.
Wow.
Shoals.
John, you're probably familiar with this. And to tell you something else you can do with radar, Digger. I don't really like it, but a lot of guys talk shit about it. But you know, if you see a boat, if you got overlay on your radar, you can zoom in and touch the boat that you're looking at. You can touch it, and it'll give you their GPS coordinates to the spot they're in. So I think a lot of people have really utilized that.
And if you have autopilot, you can follow the boat.
Yeah.
But what was crazy about Friday was, you know, we were off of Ocracoke going to Hatteras. There were 50 sport fishes. I'm not lying. It was literally, and that weed line went from where we started, and it was literally 7 hours. We trolled one direction. It was the entire way. Now it broke up, and then it would go, and it wasn't a thick weed line, right? It was maybe 4 or 5 feet. And you never saw like a big patch of grass just because I think the waves and the wind was so bad. But there was a weed line, and then if it broke, you could see it, you know, 50 yards to your right. But we just followed the weed line, and that's all the other boats. They were all in a line. Some were coming back against the wind. We didn't think about it until 3 o'clock when we turned around and we were like, oh shit. This is gonna be rough going back, and we tried to you know, hammer down on it, and I mean, you couldn't. You'd stuff them. I mean, that's just what it was.
That sounds like me and my 19-foot boat when I'm 5 miles out. I was like, oh shit, no wonder it was an easy ride getting out here.
Yep.
Hey, Matthew Miles, to answer your question, Matthew. I think yes, there was a division where you had no electronics. Is that correct, John?
The non-omnidirectional.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw something.
You can have regular sonar, just non-omni.
You can have regular sonar, but that omnidirectional, I mean, it's $200,000.
How much?
200,000 for the sonar. And you know, I talked to Builder's Choice they had omnidirectional. He's telling me how they use it, and they have a Seakeeper 43, which I think is like 80,000, and they're putting another one on.
How well did that do out there?
Oh, he said you instantly know, but apparently the boat's so big when it gets really rough. He said it requires 2, so he's putting another one on.
Serious guys there.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about $80,000 just to keep you from your rolling, you know, like, and you already have one that.
Pete, you gotta accelerate the program up to a 747, so you get this done before I retire. So
these boats
I would, but your ass will back out every time. I mean,
I know every time you ask, every time. One day
cost more than the airplanes you're flying, Pete.
What's that?
Some of these boats cost more than the airplanes you're flying.
Nah.
Not the airplane.
No.
Maybe a small plane, maybe a doctor killer, but
maybe.
Yeah, I think
$12 million.
I think 20
the plane I fly,
jets are $50-100 million or more,
the
right?
plane that I fly like $80 million at the least.
Yeah. I think
Dang.
20 million is about the biggest or the most expensive one I've seen. It's a 91-foot. They call it a Jericho. It's a Jarrett Bay. $20 million. The guy bought it. I was reading the story on him. He bought it for $18 million 2 years ago, and he's got it on the market now for 20. Make $2 million. That's pretty good ROI. I mean,
he needs to put a listing down in Fort Lauderdale or Miami. He might sell it there. Maybe not here.
Yeah. I wish I could afford one, but I mean, they're nice. But they get beat up too, right? I mean, you talk to all those guys, they're like, this is one of the roughest, you know, they're like, it's traditional Big Rock fashion. It's rough. They're like, this is one of the roughest weeks. And I think Wednesday, 12 boats fished, and there was 2 boated, which I thought was crazy.
Yeah.
For out of 12 boats. But, you know, they had 35-40 mile an hour gusts, and they were calling for 6 to 11s.
Can't imagine fighting a fish in that shit. And then it was a 2.1 pound dolphin won $2,000 that day, right?
Well, and that's what I was talking to my buddy about Thursday. I was like, man, we ought to just go to a 14-mile buoy and get a little peanut and try to get, $2 grand.
Yeah.
Like, because I was like 12 boats fished yesterday, and then it said we fished Thursday, but it's because I had reported a lay day Tuesday and Wednesday, so I didn't bother doing one for Thursday. But I was like, I bet out of the 75 boats that said they fished Thursday, I bet probably only 40. They were calling for the same conditions. And 14 mile, and you can tell, and Pete, you probably know all the times you go offshore. Once you get to a certain point, they start picking up, and you could tell when you were when you went from, 600 feet to 1,500 feet, those swells got big. I mean, and you're like, okay, I need to get a little bit closer back in.
There's always a benchmark in the winter times. There's a benchmark. It's like, when we're about roughly 6 miles away from the stream, usually that's when shit a lot of times gets nasty, and the closer you get, the nastier it gets on those, those days with the northeast wind or southwest wind sometimes. But it's crazy to tell, like the current change and temperature change and everything was rough it up pretty quick.
So
we had good wind. We had southwest wind every day. It was west, southwest wind. I mean, honestly, couldn't have asked for, obviously northeast wind wouldn't want, but I've always heard west wind and south wind. Good to go.
So those big boats, those big Hatteras, Vikings, all that, what's tolerable for them? Everybody wants it fairly decent, but what can they tolerate and fish in?
They can tolerate more than you can, but that, like the Builder's Choice guys said, their rule of thumb when they go out, not in a tournament, is 10 foot for every 1 foot of wave. So they're on 62 foot. He was like 6 foot, and it also depends on the period, right? You can have a 10 foot wave at 20 seconds, which is nothing. But and every day it was, I think there was Monday when the storms were in, it was 4 to 6s at 5 seconds. That's a washing machine. It's just, it's not fun. But you're fishing for money. You got no choice but to kind of go out. You see other boats go out, so you do it. See how much you can take.
At least the good thing is the Kingfish tournaments, you don't have to go but 10 miles. It's a little more exciting right there in the rough seas.
Yeah, you can still get nasty 10 miles out.
Hell yeah, I can.
And when that storm came through, I'm telling you, I've never been in one like that where there was lightning. We saw it on the radar. That storm was 10 miles wide. And last year when storms came in, I was out there, I could outrun them. And I went between, I've got a video on my radar. You could see one on this side, one on this side. And this year I was like, let's try to outrun it. And we started, and it was so rough, you go 7 mile an hour, 10 mile an hour. But it was such a big storm, like there was nowhere to go. And when that temperature dropped, man, I'm telling you, I was in short sleeves, it's 80 degrees out there, 75 degrees. It dropped to like 58. It was like, where's my jacket? And it sounded like hail. Just the raindrops were so huge, smacking the T-top, smacking the water. And it lasted 30 minutes. There's just thunder, lightning all around you. And all you could do, I was holding on with two hands. Somebody was like, why didn't you get any more footage? I'm like, dude, I couldn't get under the head to get my GoPro out. And then for 30 minutes, I'm literally hanging on to both, T-top bars, like, because it was all you could do to stay in the boat. It was rough.
And that's why I don't want to go out with you at night, Wes. That's exactly why.
Well, we're going to try to pick a day where the weather is, been pretty calm.
Where thunderstorms don't exist at the beach. That's what I'm looking for. We need to find that day where there's no thunderstorms at the beach.
Well, we might not find that.
Yeah, I don't know. I use the Windy app, and it's pretty, for the most part, accurate.
I actually downloaded that app. That's actually a pretty good app. I like that.
Yeah.
If you notice the summertime thunderstorms, if you're ever down there, the lifespan of a thunderstorm, a lot of times they'll come inshore, and the moment they touch that shoreline, poof,
they're
gone.
Yeah. Or vice versa. The minute they touch the store, they blow up. So yeah.
Dude, the only good thing is I do have a cabin on my boat. If it poured down rain or got real bad, we could get out of it. So, and
I bought me an EPIRB, so that's
I've got one too.
Yeah, so
I think that red button right there next time and see if it works.
Hey, press that button to see if it works. Let me know what happened.
Why are there helicopters up here?
Hey, Scott Perry never cracked a smile or nothing. He just looked up at me and said, "Here they come."
Here they go.
He said, Wes, look behind you. And I looked, and this fucking helicopter. I said, oh, man, that's some military shit down here in Beaufort. They good. And then he didn't say nothing else. I sat there fishing. Then all of a sudden, this motherfucker starts circling.
Starts hovering. Yeah.
I said, Scott, they came, didn't they? He said, I tried to tell you. And he said, a few minutes later, he said, hell, look behind you. And I look behind me, and this fucking cutter is coming through, hitting fucking 4-foot waves, busting them. I mean, the water looked like it was going, I'm not exaggerating, it looked like it was going 50 foot high. And Scott said, oh, hell, said, we in for it now. I tell you, that was, and then that girl, she got a book out, and I didn't know, I said, Scott said, I wonder what she's going to do with that book. He said, that's the fucking ticket book, homeboy. He said, you better get your credit card out. And I thought I was going to
Did you get a ticket?
No, actually, she said they don't charge for that. She said, they did board me. Here's the biggest irony of this whole story was I had just put a brand new VHF radio on that Grady White, brand fucking new. Tested it, everything was good. Going out while we were going offshore, the radio just cut off and it stopped working. Found out later it was actually a fuse behind the radio. There was a fuse behind the radio and a fuse at the battery. I didn't know. I thought since they fused it at the battery, that was the only one they used. So anyway, long story short, I always had a handheld that I used in Chesapeake Bay when I had that Sea Ark. I forgot I had it on the boat. I didn't know this till later. So anyway, they're circling, and Scott said it looks like he's doing a hand like this, like we need to call him on the radio. Fuck, I ain't got no radio. Can't call him. So anyway, they boarded the boat, and she was asking, I showed her my life jacket, stowable device, flares, showed her my horn working on the boat, blah, blah, blah. And she said, so do you have a VHF radio? I said, listen, I said, you ain't going to believe this, ma'am, but I do. I just remembered when y'all were coming up that I had a handheld that I used on another boat. And then she hollered back over there. Before she got on the boat, I hollered over there to the cutter. I said, I do have a radio. And they told me what channel to go to. I forgot. So I was talking to them. And then the lady, she said, do you mind if we board your boat? I was like, no, I don't care. It's the first time I've ever been boarded in my life. So her and that, they got on the boat. And she, like I said, she checked all my equipment. And she said, you're good. She said, I said, listen, I said, I don't know how much this is going to cost. I said, but I can't put it on a credit card when I get back in or however y'all do this. And she said, it ain't going to cost nothing. She said,
taxpayers.
Yeah. She said, I said, where did y'all come from? She said, we come from Tybee Island. I said, you mean y'all got up here from Tybee Island in 20 minutes? We're north of Beaufort. We're at the Betsy Ross wreck. She said, yeah. And I said, well, just roughly, I said, since you're not going to charge me nothing, I'm going to ask you this. How much did you reckon it cost y'all to come up here? She said, and I'm roughly guessing between the helicopter fuel and the boat fuel, probably $10,000 to $12,000. Yeah. I was like, really? She said, yeah. But she said, here's the deal. She said, we'd rather come out and it be somebody accidentally pushed a button than if you pushed that button because your friend was drowning or you was drowning or your boat capsized or it'd be a real accident. And she said, I promise you, Mr. Rose, she said, you're not the only one that's ever mashed that E-per. But she said, but my captain did tell us when they called out, she said, he did say we needed to get there ASAP because we had like 12 calls. I thought I was mashing it to test it. I kept waiting for it to come up to say test. Test was good. Test was good. I didn't realize that when you've got that antenna out.
Oh, yeah. And you pull that little tab back.
Yeah.
It's hot.
It's hot. And
I was explaining that to my son on the boat. I said, when it's to this point, the next one they coming.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I asked that lady, I said, I said, when that thing goes off, what does it do? She said, it's just got a little recording on our end. I said, what does it say? And she was just kidding. She said, it says, help me. Help me. But no, that was an experience. The coolest thing about that, though, is, I gave $400 for that thing. But to know that if you're in trouble, anywhere in the fucking world, it don't matter where you're at.
Yeah.
If you've got line of sight to the sky with that antenna, you mash it, somebody's going to come help you.
I'm supposed to go to Thailand in August, and I'm taking it with me just in case our plane crashes in the jungle or whatever the hell happens. I'm going to
Asiana flight, whatever, right?
Yeah, I have that thing with me. So, yeah.
Now, mine says mine's good for 4 years, and after that, I throw it away because once you activate it, the battery's always on. It never cuts off.
Yeah.
And she did tell me, and Mike Bradford told me this story in Venice, Louisiana, a couple of years ago. A buddy of his, I think he said it was, or a guy he knew, a buddy of his, they had come in off the water and they were partying drunk as hell at his house. Everybody was smoking weed, just all fucked up. Well, he left the E-Perb in the seat of his boat and it started raining. So the E-Perb got wet, and once it was submerged in water,
Oh, water activated. Yeah.
He said the Coast Guard come busted the party up about 4 o'clock in the morning. I want to know why that signal was going off. So
I've had a friend who got approached by Coast Guard in his driveway at his house one night because it went off his console some way, shape, or form. So it happens.
So now I wear mine on my life jacket. Like if I'm by myself, I'm not going offshore by myself. But if I'm just going out like past the sea buoy, or maybe 10 or 12 miles out, there's a couple of wrecks out there you can fish. It's off right there out of Little River. I'll wear it up here on my live vest. I will wear one if I'm by myself with my kill switch.
How far do you guys go off by yourself? That's a good question for me.
Farthest I've ever been out's about 12 miles.
I typically won't fish by myself, honestly, but I have gone by myself. And
even just going outside the jetties and tooling around.
So I have gone out by myself, and the furthest I'll go out is about 8 miles, roughly, which is still cell phone range.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I've been to the Sherman by myself. Is that the 10-mile wreck?
Yeah, that's the one. Actually, I was at the Sherman that day. I think that's the
bottom fish there.
I'll do 5. That's my limit. I want to make sure the cell phone works. Yeah.
So last year, I do have to share this real quick. Let's see if this one plays. This was.
You want me to play it?
Yeah.
You ready?
Play.
You want to tell us
how many people are actually watching this, or is this just our own little private chat room?
We've still got 8 on YouTube, and I don't know how many on Facebook.
Okay.
You ready to play it, John? Or you want to tell us about it before I play it?
Oh, I'll let me tell. So last year, the Big Rock, we saw this plane hovering around, and I was like, "There's Jordan up there, fucking looking for weed lines, like cheating." I mean, it was hovering around for like 20 minutes, right? And we just couldn't figure it out. And we thought it looked like a commercial aircraft. I mean, it was big, but it wasn't like big, right? And then the next thing you know, we saw helicopter. I was like, that's the Coast Guard coming. And they hovered around us, like on top of us. It's probably 15 minutes. Then we saw the battleship come, and I think that's the footage I have here, and I'll explain the end of it once the video plays. I don't know how long it is.
Y'all are sitting there looking around going, somebody's hurt out here somewhere.
We thought it was us. We were like, they're about to come check us. There's only like 2 other boats out there. Is it playing now?
No, you ready for me to play it?
Yeah, go ahead.
I have to add it to stream. Hold on. Oh, here we go.
All right, so let me finish the story now because that was the wrong clip. But anyway, so this guy, what happened? Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep. This guy was out there by himself. He wasn't fishing the tournament. He was offshore fishing. And that was one of the Coast Guard ships that came out. And they went and approached him, and we turned it to 16. And apparently his E-Perb had fallen overboard and contacted the Coast Guard. Well, it fell overboard 5 miles away. He wasn't around it. We were around it. So they were like
right next to your boat. Okay.
Yeah. And so anyways, they were hovering around us, and they were like, this is the Coast Guard, come in. And we were like, someone overboard. Does anyone need assistance? We were like, what? Who? They're not talking to us. Like we don't have a E-Perb that went overboard. So anyways, this guy's by himself. They finally figured out it was him. And he got on the radio. Well, the guy takes off. His wife had called in too. Like, my husband's out there by himself, and he was in, probably like a 27-foot Sea Hunt or something like that. It had twin engines, but smaller boat by himself, 50 miles offshore. And so the guy, after that ship had stopped him and made sure he's okay or whatever, the guy takes off and literally almost hits us. So I got another clip somewhere. That was the only one I saw, but he literally was like 15 feet from the bow of our boat running like 45 mile an hour. And then all you saw was he looked back and he like swerved over and he was like, you could tell he was just like, I'm about to be a big shit for my wife that was worried out here. But I thought it was crazy that they had that plane that circled around the EPIRB, then the helicopter, and then the ship. Like it was 3. I was sitting there thinking like, man, that costs taxpayers a lot of money, you know.
So Peter, that's a good question for you. How much are y'all picking up on notifications about stuff like that and alerts if you're in an area and you get a whatever? Do y'all get any notification, look out, BOLO for any of that stuff?
You know, so the Coast Guard, a lot of times on the radio, you get what they call pom-pom, right? So you get the alert pom-pom, you know, potential boat in distress, you know, so on and so forth. You hear it quite frequently sometimes, actually, but I say quite frequently. I'd say I hear it once every 3 or 4 offshore trips, maybe. And, you know, most of the time it's nothing, you know, but ends up being, hey, be on the lookout. The last distress signal was about 7 miles east-southeast. Let's just say Merle's Inlet or something like that, you know. So we get those alerts on the radio quite frequently from.
Yeah. You don't know how many people have asked me why he calls his boat BOLO, and I have to explain it to them. So
be on the lookout.
Yeah, I have to explain to what that means.
Figure out on mine, Pete.
You have people ask you what it means?
Yeah, I've had a couple of people that know I know you, and they're like, "What the hell's that stupid name for?" What do I say?
Hey, I've actually had a couple of BOLOs on me in my life. Promise you, I know
that was the land police that had the BOLOs.
So here recently, I've been, you know, whenever anyone asks me, "Hey, what does BOLO mean?" I'm like, "So I guess you've never needed to run from the police, have you?" That's the first answer every time. Then from there, I explain why BOLO.
I used to run from them until they come out with tasers. Listen, what on my radio, what setting, and I can't figure it out. And I've got a unit in it, the one that came on my boat. I think it's like a $400 radio. But where do I set it where it scans? Where it'll just like
a scan button there somewhere.
There's usually a button on there.
I don't it's got a scan button. So I'm scared I'll call somebody.
As long as it's not red, don't hit that button.
Yeah,
don't. Well, it's got a red button on it too.
Don't hit the red one, but if the stuff's off the buttons, hit the buttons, and it will say SC on the screen, and that means it's scanning all the frequencies that are locked into it.
Because I've got friends that fish on 68, 69, 67.
Yep.
So I hate trying to go to each one because Kelly Morgan told me last week, so Wes, I tried to call you like 4 or 5 times. And I said, well, what were you on? He said, I use a 69. I said, well, I was going back and forth 68 to 69. So I missed him. He said, put your radio on scan. I said, I don't know how to do that. I hadn't figured out how to do mine.
Yeah, there's a button on there to hit scan. I think technically, legally, if you have a radio on your boat, it's supposed to be turned on. I think it's an unlicensed radio, but if you have it, you're supposed to have it on at all times just for any distress calls or anything. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or just to monitor for distress calls on 16 and 9 or 16 and 9.
Yeah. And back to the distress calls Friday.
This is so much more productive without JR in here.
Have you not noticed that?
So, there we go.
Really? Yeah, he loves like eavesdrop, like drop the bomb and like change subjects when like it's not about a fucking catfish.
So last Friday on the way in, they had radioed in. They found a elementary school sailboat that they had put out there, which I thought was pretty cool. They gave the coordinates of it and radioed back, and they were like, "Hey, let such and such know we found their 3-foot sailboat that had a name on it." And then also on Friday, they found a lifeboat. They said there is a life raft out here at coordinate, blah, 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 and there's no one in it. And so I think when you hear stuff like that, because they said it on Big Rock Channel 71, they were like, okay, go to 16 and, report the coordinates. And then also on Saturday, when on the way back in, there was a Carolina skiff that capsized at the Shoals, and one of the Big Rock tournament, it said anyone in the area Big Rock tournament that's on the way back in, if you're not weighing a fish, can you give assistance? And then you heard them 30 minutes later come back in. They said, thanks, Big Rock tournament boat, whatever, that aided that Carolina skiff that capsized. I mean, so yeah, you do hear it on the boat. I don't know if your question was directed while you're flying the plane or not, but
Now I came across a life raft one time. I was going out 3 Mile Reef out of Merle's, and I seen this what looked, and I was like, what the hell is that? Pulled over to it. There's a guy in it. He's waving. And I pull over to him, and it's some Navy guys that are doing water survival. And they put them in the raft and just let me know water survival. We're fine. Don't need to notify anybody. Blah, 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 blah. They were doing the whole thing with the drone shooting, all that crap. So, yeah, that was kind of interesting, stumbling on it up there, floating across the ocean.
Hey guys, I'm going to play this video. This happened on my boat last year. Pete, you may have heard about it.
Grab the beer.
But what was weird about this is when they told me what they do with these boats later. I'll wait till Peter gets back.
Boat video.
I'm watching. I'm good. Go ahead. All right. See if I can turn it up so y'all can hear it. I told Keith, I said, no, don't put my name in it because I didn't hit a fucking E-perb one time. I don't want my name nowhere near nothing. Let's see.
Right.
All right, here we go.
It's like a capsized boat out here. Yeah, it's definitely a boat. Oh! So we're on our way to offshore fishing, and we come up on this vessel that is capsized. And that boat's
yeah, we have a boat probably about 20 miles outside of Little River Inlet, and it's capsized. I don't know. We just came up on it. I hadn't seen anybody around. It's definitely capsized. Position is 33, north 3329. White hole. All I can see right now, it has a white hole. That's all I can tell.
look at all these fish right here. Sure you don't want to swim down there and see if he's got any Abbott 80s or anything? I have them on rod leashes.
I have them on rod leashes.
Look for fish.
Been out here a while.
Was JR drunk at this point?
No, not yet.
Damn, that's crazy right there. A little single engine, like.
And it's not covered in moss. Every time I find
Look at
one,
the
they got
fish
moss
swimming
all
around
over them.
It's almost like a whaler. Oh man, I should have brought my drone. That would have been a cool shot.
So I actually, and I didn't know this, but one of the guys that I bought some props from, his name is Brian, and he actually works with Cito and through Geico, and I didn't realize it. But I went up to the store that morning, and Brian, he said, Wes, he said, why didn't you call that in? And I said, listen, bud, I said, I don't fuck with that radio no more. I said, I ain't calling shit in. They done got my name where I done hit an E-perb by accident. So anyway, I said, how did you know that was my boat? And he said, because I heard him, they said it's the last one, because that's what I named my boat. And Keith told me, he said, this is the last one out of Little River. So he said, I thought that wasn't your voice. But anyway, Brian, he owns, I don't know if you know anything about Little River, Pete. You know where, if you pull out of Baker Street where my boat is and go right toward Calabash, it's that float shop up there on the right. It's got a big Cito sticker and a red writing. Trying to think of the name of it. Boat Supply. Something is Calabash Boat Supply. Anyway, so Brian asked Brian, I said, what did they do with that boat? He said, well, after you reported the coordinates, he said, they'll just let it float out there. They won't do nothing to it. I said, they won't go get it or haul it in or try to. He said, nah. And he said, now every now and then, he said, the Coast Guard will actually go out to boats like that and do target practice with certain guns, and they'll just shoot it full of holes and sink it. And he said, sometimes they don't even do that. So I just thought that was strange that they would let something that big just float out there in the ocean. I mean,
so they didn't recover it.
I don't know if they recovered that one or not. He said they probably wouldn't, no bigger than it was.
Yeah, because we found one offshore one time. It was a small boat. It had like moss and shit growing around it, so it'd been there a while. But you could see the whole number. I called into the number and spoke to them, and they already had it documented, and they were like, "Let it float."
What was strange about that boat, dude? It didn't even have no numbers on it. None.
And that one looked like it hadn't been in for a long time. Usually they got shit
kind of
rolling
white
on them.
looking.
And stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it had been out there another 50 or 60 miles, that son of a bitch would have been full of mahi.
Damn right. Yeah.
What were the fish swimming around it?
Look like ringtails.
Little triggers, I think. Triggers.
How far out were you? 5 miles off Little River?
No, we was about 25 miles, I think, somewhere around there.
So
It looked
Wes,
like a
is that
lake. I haven't seen flat water like that.
Oh, dude, hey, it stayed flat that whole day. Hey, when we were running out at 42 miles an hour. We came back in at 42 miles an hour. Just it was like dead calm.
That's my kind of water right there, baby.
I know,
That's what I
right?
like.
That's skiff water right there, baby. Right?
Yeah,
That is,
exactly.
I think that happens 5 days out of the summer, and it's always on a weekday when I can't go.
Yeah.
Hey, and I got
That's why you gotta start working
I got
weekdays.
three
Or
of them.
sorry, that's why you gotta start fishing weekdays, man.
I wish.
Damn banker hours, man.
I need somebody to buy this company.
Is your boat still down there, Wes?
It stays
Little
in the river. It
Okay.
stays at Cricket Cove Marina.
Okay. I can drive up there. It don't take long.
But seriously, the Chesapeake Bay thing, guys, if y'all really want to go,
I'm definitely game for it. No doubt about it. For sure.
we'll all three go. I mean, I can put 3 people can fish my boat easy, one person driving. You've been up there before, hadn't you?
I'll
Pete?
film.
Yeah.
I'll film.
I mean, I want you to fish.
That's fine too, but I'd love to film it. I would love to really do a good experience of that. So
yeah,
a little different than JR.
I'll tell you, this right here is not my boat, but here's this is from the Chesapeake Bay. I think this was our cobia trip. Let's see.
Got a big belly on her.
Wow.
Be easy with her.
Wow, we need to get her back in.
You think she's pregnant?
Oh, yeah.
She's pregnant dead. Right on. Get back quick.
Hey, Penny, you hear me? Beat that fish up.
I'm just trying not to hurt her.
I know.
So note to self, I can lip a cobia.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Nothing but a flathead catfish is about.
Okay. The last one I stuck a gaff in. So there we go. Good note.
There you go. Yeah, I'm stoked about hopefully getting cobia this weekend, man. That's what I'm aiming for. I think one day we may try to chum fish for one.
Are you down there this weekend? You running a trip or playing?
This this weekend with the Catch the Fever guys.
Oh, that's right. You're doing that. Okay.
Oh, this weekend?
Yes, sir.
Well, that's why you said you was going no matter what.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I hope the weather changes for y'all. It'll be a little bit easier.
Yeah. Like I say, from the looks of it, I mean, I can right now this time of year, I can do something in that 10 to 15 mile range, so it should be all right. Should be right for something at least.
Gonna try to find.
Orale, man.
Cut it out,
That's
Wes.
not- Whose boat was that? That's nice.
Jeff Pills. Trying to find some more videos.
Anyway,
You're listening to the Real Fisherman Podcast.
The Real Fisherman
I'm off the bed.
But Dieter, did you see these? That's a Chesapeake Bay fish.
You showed those earlier. Those are
Oh,
nice.
you did see those?
Yeah.
All right, gents, I'm off the bed. See you next go around. Maybe tomorrow, right?
It's been real.
Are you coming back tomorrow?
I don't know. Are we?
Oh yeah, we'll do a show tomorrow. Well, I just wanted to do it tonight, mainly just for the Big Rock tournament thing. While
I think it's smart. I think it's smart.
Yeah.
Yep.
Y'all gonna watch Fox News in the morning?
I'm not gonna wake up especially for it. So yeah, if I'm up, sure.
I will have it on.
I've got it recorded in case I don't.
I mean,
Who they have? The captain on there?
Yeah.
McCoy.
You know, Ashley, the owner.
Ashley.
Okay.
Yep.
So who
All right,
owned the
guys.
boat? I thought it was a Jarrett Bay boat.
It was.
Okay.
And that's the owner. And actually, my brother who goes to App, the owner's daughter goes to App, and they know each other. And he was like, I know the owner's daughter, blah blah blah. And I was like, man, I know they're sick.
Find that girl.
That's what I told him. I was like, dude, what are you doing? And apparently he's in a fraternity up there, but he was like, she dates one of my frat brothers. And I was like, man, you're all messed up, dude. You gotta lock that thing down because you don't understand.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't understand.
Good brotherly advice. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I'm like, I wish I would have done something like that. I don't care what she looked like. Let me go on that sport fish. Lower my standards a little bit.
That's funny.
I'm kidding. Anyways, thanks.
I hope she's not watching. He's just joking. If she's watching, he's just joking.
I'm happily married. Anyway.
Cool. All right, guys. Until next time.
Yep.
All right. Enjoyed it.
Really
Thanks for the
appreciate y'all
invite.
coming on,
See ya.
buddy.
Yes, sir.
Good night,
Thank y'all.
everybody.
Have a good one.
Good night. Good night, John.